Hypocrisy.
Here. There we go. There's the audio. Okay. Yeah. I got it. I got this new audio interface. So you knew it was going to be a freaking disaster. And we'll have to play with it. We'll have to play with it more and more and figure out all the ins and outs. It's the Rodecaster 2 Pro. Rodecaster Pro 2. I guess it's the Pro 2, not the 2 Pro. And it's got a lot of functionality that I have no preparation to use yet. I just really wanted to get it up. Oh, no. Ah, damn it. I was just playing with it. I just really like to get it up. I mean, come on. Oh, fucking hell. I'm just gonna, you know what? Instead of doing a show, I'm just gonna find a bridge and jump off of it. Okay. Anyway, so I think I've got a bait and switch tonight because I put up this title, which is kind of interesting stuff, but I think I've got something different in store for the actual show. I think we've got a guest tonight. I'll wait for him to pop in, but he is a Minnesota State Senate candidate, and he claims he has been defamed by the Democrats in the state, and that he is now receiving death threats. I don't know much about what's going on, but, I figured he said he'd be happy to come on the show and talk about it. So I figured we could talk about that. I don't know. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I'm waiting for him to pop in, and then we'll jump in on that. Yeah. Got this stupid random cough going on. I did fix my audio, Conservative Voices University. Don't be a bigot. All right. Yeah, I gotta figure out how to use these little pads and what they do. I don't know what they do at all. Can you rush through what Russell Greer did to himself? Well, Russell Greer, briefly, he lost his lawsuit against America's Got Talent. This is not a surprise, but the actual surprise is how it was lost. Just mainly because it took so long to get to this. But America's Got Talent, like most open invitation organizations, I should say, they have a binding arbitration clause in their contract. So when you sign up to go on America's Got Talent and you audition, you fill out everything, you sign a binding arbitration clause. And it says that you will not take them to court, because instead you'll have to go to an arbitrator. And there's positives and negatives about arbitration. The positive is that you don't have to pay as much for it. Usually there's an arbitration fee that is, in a lot of cases, is kind of fronted mostly by the larger company. is how they do this, and this is how they kind of get away with it. But there's a small fee of entry for the user. So in this case, Russell Greer would pay like $250 or something to go to arbitration, and then the larger company would bear the rest of the cost, which is pretty significant. But with that, my guest has arrived. So I'd like to welcome him to the stream, Mr. Stephen Lowell. How's it going, man?
Living the dream, dude. Living the dream. It's been a wild ride, tell you what.
I don't know. I'm not so sure because I Googled your name. I saw these articles about you.
Oh man.
Like, oh no, this man is very dangerous. Clearly, he stood up at an event and he used words to suggest that people vote. Like it was, I don't know what's going on, but why don't you, if you could, kind of introduce yourself, who you are, what you're running for or running from, and kind of just give us a rundown on the situation, because like I said, you reached out to me. I'm not super familiar with who you are prior to this, so thank you for reaching out. But I'd like to kind of figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Well, my name is Stephen Lowell. I'm running for Senate District 52. So Egan, a little bit of Burnsville, a little bit of Mendota Heights, Mendota, and 4 houses in Lilydale. I am reminded by my BPOU. And I guess people like to frame me as a libertarian. I believe that libertarianism only exists because Republicans suck. And, if they sucked less, the libertarians are probably going to be the same thing. They're mostly the same value set, just
right.
The GOP stopped supporting those values when they should have, and now there's a whole fractured chunk. And I mean, it's all good for the Dems, but for anyway. So short story long, I believe in liberty. I believe in people meeting their prosperity as soon as they can, because that's why people work. They don't work for money. They don't work to survive. People work to prosper. They want to go someplace where they feel they are assured and they can build a happy, healthy family. That's 9 out of 10 people. That's what they'd like to do. Or hell, even if they want to do it alone, they want to reach that prosperity. And I get the impression, and hey, happen to be wrong, right? But I'm getting the impression that people view that as a harder and harder thing to achieve these days. And so, like the government out of the way, want them as far from your life as I can get them. And if you need their help, I want them there lightning strike fast. So, it's very simple stuff, not wildly controversial by any stretch of the imagination. And at the Dakota County Patriots event, I was addressing a crowd of people who are very concerned about election integrity. They're very concerned about being slandered and jaundiced in the media, not having any respect for their views, and people happy to pen laws that quite often blatantly target them. The response every Democrat gives to increased violence and crime with guns is to harass Republicans at gun stores. And that's not, no amount of that will ever stop a crime. I mean, like, shocker, lightning crackle, right? But like, it's, come on. So those are the people that I'm speaking to. And in this very ad lib speech, I don't write any of my speeches down. I just speak off the top of my head because I'm not a professional politician. I didn't plan to run. I was on the ground in the riots. I don't own stuff like this because I felt like it. I mean, I own stuff like that because I watched buildings burning down. I watched innocent people getting mobbed by large groups all over the country. And, it was a very dangerous time those couple of weeks. Very wild.
So you're referring to the Summer of Love, I'm guessing, which hit
the Summer of Love. I love it.
Hit the Minneapolis area pretty hard after the George Floyd incident, we'll call it. And so that's the riots you're referring to. Is that correct? Okay. I've got the footage of your speech. Should we just play it real quick so people can? Go. Okay, so here's the speech in question. This is about a 2-minute clip with your controversial statement comes pretty early on in it. So
this one might be a bad one then, because the Newsweek clip, I mean, you can show this one, that's fine. The Newsweek clip showed like 40 seconds before and about to a minute before and 40 seconds to a minute after. And there's important preamble. We can discuss that. I'm not in a hurry.
All right, here we go. Let's take a gander at what we said here. And we can always play another video if we have to, but here we go.
Hey. we got to remember, we got to never, ever, ever forget the kind of damage the Viceroy up at the House did to this nice patch of land, small town Minnesota, and we need to grow our teeth back fast. So part of those teeth in this particular set of terms is voting with a ballot before we have to vote with bullets.
Okay, so there was the this is the one that's gathering the headlines that I've seen. You said part of that is voting with a ballot before we have to vote with bullets.
Yep.
Which is, let's see, how do I word this? Is not actually a controversial statement, especially with the follow-up. But I've cut it off specifically before the follow-up. But this is what they do, right? They focus on this one specific set of words that you say, and now the mantra is he wants to shoot everybody. He wants to vote with bullets, right? Like you're a murderous monster.
That is exactly how they've worded it, and the DFL website's taken incredible creative license with it. Emphasis on creative.
Yeah, it's let's see what the follow-up is, because I did watch this clip and I haven't watched the other one. And I think the follow-up pretty adequately explains exactly what you meant. So here we go.
At the end of the day, when people don't believe that their elections are stable, they don't believe that police will protect them, they stop using the democratic of any kind of method. We are a democratically elected constitutional republic, for anybody confused by that. But like, people stop using that particular method when it looks like it's too corrupt to work. If it's too corrupt to work, nobody wants to participate. Who wants to participate in a game that seems like you're just going to lose it? And so we have to bring back that faith, and we have to come out and vote. We have to vote just like they're throwing Molotovs up and uptown. We have to vote.
Okay, so there you explain it, right? You say when people lose faith in the system, they refuse to participate in the system and they can resort to violence. And you said, so we have to restore faith in that system. We have to go vote in the same way that people are throwing Molotovs. And you go on to say in the same way that people were burning down buildings or knocking down things pretty specifically. But that's kind of the gist of what you actually were saying there. Is that right? Is that an accurate characterization of what's going on?
More or less, yes. And I've had a great opportunity online. I'm not a professional politician. I'm a regular dude. So when people post whatever stuff on Twitter, I react to them and speak to them like I would speak to a normal person or run a normal Twitter account. I don't like the sterile politician thing. I don't feel like anybody's represented by that. I understand it's safer for elections because, people want their power, but I didn't do this for power. I did this for the hope to represent people as a regular working class American, not somebody who, has a whole bunch of extra time, makes a crap ton of money, and just figures, political power seems like the cool thing to do next. Let's go. So, I've explained over and over and over again, it's a metaphor to describe what happens when your society breaks down. Because when societies break down, usually it is very dangerous. Just like we saw with the George Floyd incident. It's incredibly scary for lots of people, lots of damage, lots of property damage, suffering. Some people died. It was not the least of which, of course, including George Floyd himself, but he was, of course, the start of the riots, not necessarily during. But the point I'm making is the whole thing is just kind of a train wreck. And it's a train wreck everybody, including people who are running for office, should want to avoid. And unfortunately, it's hard to get people to avoid danger if you don't point out that danger. You can't get people to keep their hands off of hot stoves without saying, yo, you're going to get burned. It's hard to keep people out of traffic without saying, yo, don't walk in there. You're going to get hit by a car. That doesn't mean you're advocating for people to get hit by cars. It means you're saying, hey, there's danger up ahead. You should avoid it. And that's perfectly reasonable. There's nothing remotely controversial about that.
Right. I mean, but that's not the way the media works, right? The media works on there is a phrase or saying that has occurred that I can exploit for clicks, right? And the exploitation of that comes at the expense of the speaker often, if something is taken out of context. And for you, you mentioned bullets in the context of politics, therefore you are advocating political violence. I mean, that's the mantra that must run because you're the enemy.
According to them, yes, that's not how American politics is supposed to work. You're supposed to be mere opponents. You're not supposed to be enemies. But, that's how the left loves it. So here we are.
Right. Yes, exactly. But again, you made a mistake there. You said American politics, but this isn't American politics. This is American media, and American media is built on bones and blood. if it bleeds, it leads. And you have said words that lead to quote unquote blood, right? Blood in the streets if there's an overflow of political violence. And of course, after January 6th, there's an ongoing mantra that Republicans are hell-bent, despite all evidence, obviously to the contrary,
Right.
that Republicans are hell-bent on bringing a violent mob to the streets to enforce their political will. Interestingly, following a bunch of people on the left's actual bringing of a violent mob to the streets to enforce their political will for the better part of 4 months.
Yeah, I need one of those fine addition to my collection gifts. Yeah, no, it's a fact. It's a fact, and I find it hilarious that after something like the repeat riots in Uptown, which I have, like, full disclosure, kind of undercover, but I've been in. I've seen them myself. I wandered around in the riots for the sake of my own observation. If my state's gonna burn, I might as well get to watch it. And so
Right.
I've actually been on the ground. I've walked through blocks and blocks of burning garbage and smoking rubber. It's wild and disgusting. And I watched some poor. I watched a black man's pizza business get burned down in the middle of these riots that are supposed to be by people who care about that or something. I don't know. And so wild stuff. And I guess, like, after that, and basically the media just ignoring it. Like, we're not going to talk about it. That's fine. And then, of course,
Right.
whatever, January 6th happens, and we still there's at least 20 FBI agents who are supposed to be embedded in that crowd. We don't even know if those are the people that made entry. I mean, hopefully we'll find out someday.
At least 20.
At least 20. Yeah, I was going to say, it was at least 20. It was at least 20. And that's what they've admitted. That's not a right-wing conspiracy theory. They've admitted it. They said it was true.
If there's 20 feds, there's 80 feds at least.
I was going to say,
I don't trust this number at all.
So full disclosure, if there were no feds there at all, and it was just a bunch of random idiots that decided to bust into a public building that wasn't, secure, I would have a very different opinion. But we know this wasn't a strictly speaking everyday person joint. There were many moving pieces, and we may never see them all. And
Brent,
so
we also know that there are some who busted in and others who were let in, right? Like we know that to be true. So that changes the calculus. It's like, okay, well, now we have to, and of course the prosecutors, because prosecutors are barely people. But they've taken on this this opportunity to say, well, but it'd be hard to figure out, like, the difference between the people who actually commit the crimes and the people who didn't. So they treat everybody as if they're all the worst terrorist that's ever lived. I mean, you couldn't get an actual terrorist into a U.S. courtroom. The amount of fight that had to occur before we could get a terrorist before a U.S. court was massive. And then once they did, they're like, well, but maybe we just don't want to try them at all. That just kind of stopped. But these guys, they're just aching. Well, first they're aching to leave them in jail as long as possible, to break their spirit, to break their connections with their family, their communities, to isolate them, to hopefully get some of them to plead guilty so they can use them on other people. But I mean, these are just the kind of the typical tactics. But we really have a different set of people who have participated in January 6th. Some of the people need to go to jail, and others were just kind of there and kind of walking around. They get let in. They weren't violent. They didn't destroy anything. And those people need to be let go.
I've actually spoken on the topic to some folks from the Minnesota FBI field office, because I was very curious what would these people even be charged with?
Yeah,
like what are you after? And he admitted he had no idea. He was like, I don't know, mere presence. I honestly have no idea how they're going to push that. Like even the FBI's own field agents are kind of confused as how they're, which is it's sort of like low key legal political code for, we're going to make it up.
We'll figure something out later. You're talking about tomorrow's problem.
And it's like nobody went in there and took an Amber Heard on Pelosi's desk or anything like that. Like nobody did anything like that. It was a relatively calm affair. A podium was jacked, apparently.
I wanted that thing so bad. God, I wish that if that would have gone up on eBay, I would have mortgaged my house to buy that thing.
who's got a spare leg I can sell to buy this podium quick? But no, I mean, like, and I'm obviously, if there was a true assault on our capital that involved perhaps weaponry, like legitimate combat body count, like people were 100% getting dropped, that's a whole nother ball game compared to what we have on video as actually having happened. And yeah, people did get hurt, and that's not cool. No, of course, it's never cool to hurt people. And yeah, I'm sure it was like hella intense. I'm sure it was crazy, stupid intense. But on the same token, the characterization that is being given is absurd. It's obviously absurd. Most people, at least most people I talk to, are not a bunch of, and I mean like random people out in the world, not like friends or political like-minded people, are kind of like, I don't know, I think it was dumb, but I don't think it was like quote treasonous. Those guys just look like they were touring. And that's what, like, I've found the general mindset on the topic. And that's part of the reason why the January 6th hearings on YouTube were full of a bunch of it's morphin' time memes. And, people joking about how I stand with Michael Morbius in these, trying times. And so it's kind of become a meme. And I know they want it to take traction because it's a great distraction from other things that are currently going on that the general public may disagree with. But at the end of the day, there's the real issue with January 6th is the criteria for arrest. I think that needs to be very carefully looked at. And B, because I'm sure you could probably find criminal reason to punish a bunch of people that were there, and I won't disagree with that. But they need to have their right to the criteria. B, right to a speedy trial. You can't just grab people in this country and throw them in a hole and not tell them why. That's not how this country is supposed to work.
Right.
We are not the black bag republic, not yet anyway. And so, like those are very important things, and those are the things that really need to be talked about, I think, personally. Not and whether or not it was legitimate for Ashley Babbitt to have been shot dead, I think that might have been a little extreme in my personal opinion.
Yeah,
I don't think that was necessary.
I'm still looking for the deadly force analysis that shows that there was some, like, there's a difference between, if you crawl through a window that's barricaded in a federal building, you might expect to be shot. And there's a big difference between going, okay, I get that, but when we do the calculus on a justifiable use of force, what we're looking for is a proportional amount of force requisite to stop an advancing force. In this case, where is she posing a deadly force threat to multiple officers? She's coming through a window. I mean, like the one guy with one gun could stop that crowd basically forever if they're limited to coming through the window one at a time, right? It's the old bottleneck theory. It's why the building is designed in the way it is. And so I'm just not seeing it. Like, where's the arrest? Where's any of the reasonable actions that could have been taken that did not involve shooting this person in the neck? Now, maybe if they arrest her and 10 more people flood through and more people are pumping through, they have to do something. But I still have problems with that one.
Yeah, no, all I've seen, and hey, I'm a very reasonable person. If there's evidence and you can show it to me, I'm happy to look at it. Like, I'm not a I got my marching orders from Breitbart kind of guy. Like, I look at these things, I look at the video, I look at the recordings. I usually read a little bit of both sides on the topic because some topics are shared more clearly with one side than the other, and vice versa. So you really do kind of have to do your looking. But I so far haven't seen anything to paint, Ashley Babbitt as some evil person. It just seemed like she was kind of there at the wrong place at the wrong time. Not that she was there, to whatever, quote, threaten our democracy. And admittedly, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and again, there's this distinction between maybe she shouldn't have done what she was doing, but the answer to that is usually not, well, I guess you just have to die then. Like,
bang.
Like, a whole bunch of people do the wrong thing, and we don't really go straight to, well, I guess you get killed then, that's fine. Okay, so I've got beef with you already. You lured me in. You baited me into having you on with death threats. You said there's death threats. So I want to hear some of these juicy threats. I want to know what someone's going to do to you. What's going on here? This is all from your speech?
Dude, I'm dead serious. Well, you see, this is the part that we haven't gotten to talk about yet. The DFL took my speech posted by Aaron Rupar I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I probably butchered that, but he doesn't care about me, so why should I care about that guy? Anyway, moving on. So this dude posts it. The DFL grabs it and decides they're going to try to crucify me for it. Well, on their page's article, they flat out state that I want to murder people. Like, they go from that speech to he wants to shoot as a political opponent. He wants to open fire on innocent people. And it's like, wait, hold on a minute. Are you serious? And so I screen capped a bunch of it because I'm going to need it for records purposes and so on. So that's important because if any of it can be categorized as libel, I will sell organs to sue them. So perfectly okay with that. And so, like, I need to find out, like, you know, where this is coming from, right? So I look at the DFL article. I'm like, oh my God, well, I'm kind of impressed the police aren't in my house already, because the way these guys picture it, I should be thrown in a hole. So I was like, well, this is absurd and disgusting. And suddenly I just get this massive influx of people. I already have a police report started with the city of Egan. I got a bunch of, I'll dig a couple of, because I decided, since I wasn't getting a ton of support, the party, by the way, has basically ostracized me completely, which doesn't shock me. That's, you know, classic Republican behavior. And so it's one of the reasons why the Republicans have a hard time getting quality people to run. You see people like, you know, when you have issues with whatever candidate running and the Democrat Party decides to smear them, the GOP does this nifty thing where they go, oh, we don't know who that is.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
so you're the GOP endorsed candidate, but you're saying following this event, the GOP is packing up its balls and running away.
Literally, like, dead silent. In fact, the first posts, or the first messages I got from any of my GOP guys were all kind of like, hey, people aren't happy. And I'm like, oh shit, man, I'm not happy either. What in the blue? Like, so anyway, yeah, interesting. And so I'm like, so really, that's how this is, huh? And they're like, yeah, listen, we have elections to protect. I'm like, you know, there's a reason you guys can't get money and nobody wants to vote for you. And actually, it has nothing to do with your bad takes. It mostly has to do with the fact that you don't back your people when they need it. You don't come after the people that are coming after your people. You don't stand up to them. You just kind of, well, we can't have you around.
I wanted to, you mentioned a journalist earlier. Well, he calls himself Aaron Rupar is a journalist. And I wanted to just bring, I don't know if anybody knows who he is. He has 770,000 Twitter followers. Like,
yeah, almost a million.
This guy is very important. I wanted to show the chat. There he is. There's Aaron Rupar. If anybody,
hey, he looks just like me. Hold on a minute.
Don't do that to yourself.
My soul patch. I'm happy with my soul patch. I'm going to keep it. I don't care. Not bothered. No.
But yeah, so this is the guy. I don't know. He did something investigating the Trump administration or whatever at some point. I have no idea. I've never heard of this guy in my life. But he's apparently causing you some grief, is what's going on here.
And you know, this is a weird thing about me, and admittedly, maybe it's a fault, but unless I feel like I have a direct, sincere grievance with somebody, I don't have much to say to them. So for example, so in Aaron's defense, and I will speak officially in Aaron's defense, even though he mostly produced the traction for this, but you know,
well, tell it to his face. Okay.
he was kind of uninvolved, editorially speaking. He did clip it in an inappropriate place, which of course that's something he would be wanting to do. It's not libelous, it's not slanderous, it's just a clip. I get it. Some clips sound better, some clips sound worse. And I knew full disclosure, I had no intention of running for politics. I just signed up with the local Republicans and figured I'd find out what was wrong with my state. Fast forward a couple months and redistricting happens, the Senate committee meeting happens, and people are like, dude, we don't have anybody to run for Senate, and you should definitely run. And so I had 200 people telling me to run for office. I didn't run for office because I felt like that was a great idea. I ran for office because people told me I should do it, and they're the people that, you know, represent this area. So anyway, he just shared my video. He shared my video, and he made like a little caption on top that wasn't really terribly, you know, salacious or crazy, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, he's got your he's got your quote here.
Yep.
And he just says, we need to grow our teeth back fast. So part of those teeth in this particular set of terms is voting with the ballot before we have to vote with bullets. He doesn't even include the ... And he says, Stephen Lowell, GOP endorsed candidate for Minnesota Senate seat in the Twin Cities suburbs. Yeah. I mean, you're being really nice to this guy. But
I am. I probably don't need to be, but I am.
Look, you don't have to say it, but hold on. Let me do this. You're a cunt. Like, that's some bullshit. You salaciously and selectively edited the clip and pulled the direct part of the quote out to be as dickish as possible and to try and infer that this was a violent statement when it's the exact opposite. It's a non-violent statement, you liar, you freaking coward. Oh my God, these people piss me off. You're like, well, I don't have beef with this guy. I do. I've never even met this guy and I've got beef because he's a lying piece of garbage.
Yeah, he's admitted, and I guess like with politics, you expect it to be dishonest, and you know what? In fairness, that is a legitimate criticism. We shouldn't expect our politics to be dishonest. We should expect our politics to be like the most reverent thing that we do. It runs our country. It decides what laws we have to obey, and those laws are enforced by gunpoint. Talk about voting with bullets. If you're under subject of bad laws, guess who's going to have a gun in that equation? It won't be you. It'll be the government. And the government uses their guns far more liberally than their citizens do.
Absolutely. I was talking to my friend he's a GOP legislator in Minnesota here. And I was just in one of our various discussions about political philosophy. I said, just remember that every single law you pass ultimately is enforced with a bullet. Like every stupid thing that exists ever. One of the police killings that got a lot of fame a while back. This is well before George Floyd, but was Eric Garner. And Eric Garner was selling loose cigarettes in New York.
Right.
And New York has a law against that because they don't get their tax if you sell the cigarette. And so it's like what they were doing is it's like, $6 on a pack of cigarettes of tax that the city of New York wasn't going to get. So this guy had to die because of that. And it's like every single law, every speeding ticket, every citation, every don't touch your phone because if you text while driving, you die or whatever. Every one of those laws ultimately has an encounter that can produce deadly force. And that needs to be in the consciousness of our lawmakers.
Absolutely. No, and what's really funny is, and you probably didn't see the whole speech. The speech is 6 minutes and 41 seconds long. In that speech, I specifically state that every bad law is an excuse for the U.S. government to shove a loaded gun in an innocent person's face. Every single one of them. And that's what I talk about ripping out by root and branch. Yeah, you should rip it out. There's obscene corruption in our government. And last time I checked, that's what the left protests about. I wasn't sure if that was maybe like, just only a Republican thing. I'm pretty damn sure the left is unhappy that due to the war on drugs, George Floyd, in the position of being arrested and potentially going back to prison, chose to down his entire stash before getting arrested. Because if it's in your system, you don't get charged for possession.
It's very dangerous for you to talk about St. Floyd that way.
Well, hey, no, and at the end of the day, it's to his credit. It's to his credit. The man's just trying to avoid prison. Yeah. And hey, maybe he should have avoided it prior to all of that. But, he was trying to avoid prison like a normal human being tries to avoid prison. Did he make a bad decision? Sure.
He should have fed it to his passenger. That's what I would have done. That's way better.
I can't comment on that. Don't put me in that position.
Yeah, you don't. I tell jokes. I tell lots of jokes. I've talked extensively about the George Floyd situation, and in a way that's not super popular with a lot of Republicans or right-leaning people, but that's okay. We get to have different opinions and different ideas about things, and by having those discussions and that discourse, we get to modify our own positions or change someone else's mind. I mean, that's the whole purpose of all this, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But no, I cover in my statements in my speech very clearly that this is about, it's a metaphor about stability in society. And like people, and I want to make it clear, people don't give this, in fact, I don't think there's a human alive that can properly appreciate how relevant the design of this country is and the things that happened in the late 1770s. Like the late 1770s were like, were equally entirely irrelevant and almost a miracle. The part that wasn't remotely special was the revolution. Everybody focuses on the revolution. Focusing on the American Revolution in regards to what happened in the late 1770s is like focusing on the polished tile when the Mona Lisa is on the wall in front of you. It's like focusing on the vines draped on the doorway when you're looking at the David. Like, please pay attention to the important part. Every country's had a revolution. Revolutions aren't special. They're bloody, they're dangerous, and they're expensive. What is special is what comes afterward, depending. And most revolutions, usually what takes place afterward, ain't a whole lot better than what was there before. It's just new management, same as the old management, but different t-shirts this time. And so, like with the 1770s, it was very, very, very different. We created something incredible. The founders created something. I mean, we nicknamed it Jeffersonian Democracy. The idea that you can have popular elected leadership, you can have, or rather, representation. I'm getting more and more taxed by the term leadership. I prefer to be represented, not led.
Yes,
and so,
please, because like, no offense, but if you happen to become a state senator, you become my enemy immediately. If you think that you get to govern me.
Exactly. Well, and like the founders understood that laws are things that happen after. They're a post facto thing. They go after the thing. That laws happen after an action. They don't happen before an action. The idea that laws prevent is one of the greatest lies sold to the American people in the last 60 years. It doesn't prevent a damn thing. You have to act first. And the severity of the action usually determines the veracity of the response. If you create a bunch of regulatory statutes, that's like regulatory statutes are some of the most unsexy things ever. Like nobody wants to go and track down this evil serial number misapplier. Like nobody cares about that. Like no cop is going to devote their life to that. That's ridiculous. They will try to stop murder.
I wish.
I'm sorry. Excluding lawyers. My bad.
Just stay away from, like, just go bury your nose in something and leave everybody alone. Like, go do that.
Seriously. Well, and I think like the left goes nuts about. Well, I mean, to finish my prior statement, the Mona Lisa here in the 1770s was a government designed around the belief that people shouldn't be subject to laws they consider to be intolerable. That's the limit they set, because revolutions are usually waged by a minority of people. It isn't everybody. That's where the whole quote 3% notion comes from, is like that it's a small number, it's a small percentage of people that actually fight in revolutions. And those people are usually people who are, feel very put upon, And so the founders recognized that and said, okay, we need to strike a balance. So the very, very fringes and edges of opinion in society don't feel the need to do anything stupid. They're relatively content, and the center doesn't really care about that. So they're out of the way, and it keeps everything nice and stable, because the purpose of order in society is predictability. And the founders fell and created the most predictable country in human history. So predictable, you can design your entire day, and unless a bomb goes off somewhere or you get in a car accident, it happens exactly the way you plan it, almost down to the T, unless the grocery store's out of what you're looking for.
Right, which didn't used to happen.
It didn't. And like the fact that you can do that, it's almost like telling the future. It's almost like a nation of 300 million fortune tellers. You can literally go, this is what I'm going to do for my day. Watch me make it happen. And ta-da, it's done. And like when you have instability, you can't do that anymore. Some people won't make it home at night. Some people won't get the groceries they need. Some people may be put in a very desperate position. And we want to avoid that, because that's where the human cost lies. And thus, it is incredibly important that we all do as much voting as possible. And that was the whole point of the statement, that like, and people say like, oh, well, what do you mean the elections aren't secure, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it isn't about whether they are or aren't secure, which is kind of funny, because for a lot of people, it is. It isn't about that. It's about whether or not people are satisfied with what they know of the elections to be secure. If a bunch of people have a really wrong idea, it doesn't matter if that idea is like factually true. You have to find a way to satisfy it. Because if you don't, they're going to continue to get more and more unstable. And at the end of the day, if people don't feel like they can investigate things they consider to be concerning, you get a lot of bad stuff. And I give that allowance,
What you're talking about is the idea of faith in whatever system. Our government rests on the idea of faith in it. Our courts rest on the idea of faith in the courts. All of this is based on really gentlemanly agreements between the populace and the government, the different branches of government, and even the federalism, the state versus the federal government. All of them have just agreed to go along with all of this stuff. It gets real hairy if anybody ever says, yeah, no. And we saw it with, Andrew Jackson. We saw, oh my God, Sword and Scale, what are you doing? Sorry, he just dropped a huge super chat that I'll have to address in just a second.
Oh,
we saw it when Andrew Jackson had the Supreme Court issue a ruling, and he said the Chief Justice has made his ruling. Now let's see him enforce it. And we saw it with with Ronald Reagan and the FAA. When the FAA, the air traffic controllers all said, yeah, well, we're going to go on strike if you do this. And he said, you're fired. All of you, get out. And he hired new people because and no one knows what to do in that situation, because most of the time we just go, okay, we're going to do this sort of dance where everybody agrees. But the moment someone doesn't, things get real hairy really quick. And thank God, we don't have that all the time, because that predictability and stability is what has made America the economic engine since World War I. It's our ability for the normal person to go out there and just make something and then put a price tag on it and sell it to somebody else who wants it or doesn't. I mean, maybe they never sell anything, but who cares? Because then they can make something else tomorrow.
Absolutely. I wish people had more appreciation for the fact that the market isn't just stores. The market is the whole of human desire and all of its fulfillment, which it's a series of voluntary transactions so vast it's difficult to truly comprehend. It is insanely huge. It's so huge, almost no regulatory body is purely successful at regulating. Almost none. Mostly because there are so many transactions, like no government.
Well, I mean, it's like the USDA and their meat inspection idea. Like the idea that every ribeye that you buy for $28 a pound or whatever it is now, that every one of those has been fondled by some USDA inspector, like that they don't look at most of them. They don't look at almost any of them. They're not actually keeping you safe. The thing that keeps you safe is just the general quality of meat production in the United States. The fact that they look at one out of every 100,000 sides of cow and determine that there's no hookworm in it, that doesn't make you safe at all. But with that, speaking of the market, let me get these two big super chats. The first one from Icy Brain. He says, got myself a new degree, a new job, and getting a new place after a really long grind. I've appreciated getting to wind down at the end of the day with the night stream shenanigans, and I'm looking forward to taking this parasocial relationship to the next level. Ooh, well, you better start sending me nudes then.
Parasocial relationship. Wow. That's great.
Well, he's rubbing my virtual. Well, you know what? You're a serious politician. I better not say all of my jokes. Without some buy-in from my guest. Sword and Scale with a huge super chat says, what's an N-word gotta do around here to promote his podcast with special guest Nick Rekieta? Episode 218 coming this Monday at noon Central right here on YouTube's. Guys, you got to check that out. Sword and Scale and I collaborated on his upcoming episode on my favorite cannibal from Wisconsin, Chandler Halderson. He definitely shot and killed his parents. He probably ate some of them. Did you hear about this case?
I wasn't sure if you were memeing or if you were reading the news. What is this?
Okay, so this is over in Wisconsin. There was this kid, Chandler Halderson, and he was in his he's college age. And he on 4th of July, the 4th of July weekend, he shoots his mom and dad and kills them, and then he distributes their body parts to different parts of Wisconsin to try and cover up the murder. And then he pretended like they disappeared after going on a cabin trip. So he gets all the police involved and everything. And he's going door to door with his neighbors, trying to search for his parents and more information stuff. It's a crazy story. And he's the reason that it seems like he did this. Obviously, this would have a very shocking reason, some sort of prompt for it. Well, turns out that he was lying about going to college and lying about having a job at Tesla and lying about having a job as a diver for insurance agencies. Now, you know what? I've got to say, though, the people who believed that a kid in the middle of Wisconsin with no dive training was a diver for insurance agency claim recovery, that's their own fault. They should have never believed Like this, like, wait, so State Farm needs a scuba team for central Wisconsin, and you're the guy? Like, you are the guy who does this? Like, what do you do? That's their fault. But anyway, so he lied about having this job, and he lied about going to college. His parents found out, and that's the day that they get iced. It's really a tragic story.
That's just so horrific. I don't like clearly, I'm sure, as you can tell by my vernacular, I think a lot, but man, that is just it. It immediately goes to a place where my brain's like, nope, we're not talking about that. That's disgusting. Moving on. And
Yeah.
because it's
yeah.
like these are friendlies. These are friendlies. They're people you've known your whole life. Probably told you they loved you every day.
And they were funding his fake college.
And I was gonna say, and they're funding your whatever escapades into. I haven't chopped up my parents yet, dumb, and that's just absolutely disgusting. I am truly at a loss. I don't.
But if people want to hear more about this horrific crime from, the kid's a stone-faced monster too, which makes it more interesting. Of course, that's what makes it perfect for an episode of Sword and Scale. You got to check out the show on Monday at noon. Look, the way I talk about stuff. The way I talk about stuff is usually laced with a little bit of comedy, but the reason is because it's so damn depressing. I had a professor once who said,
I don't laugh about this because I think it's funny. I laugh because if I don't laugh, I'm going to cry. So,
well, I'm not going to cry because I'm a man and I'm in public, but but I would be sad about it. Okay, wait, I got to know something about you here. So on this show, I have seen you with a rock tumbler glass, and I've seen you with a cigar. What's in the glass? What's in the hand? And why the hell aren't more politicians drinking whiskey? Because I know what's in the glass. It's whiskey, and smoking cigars when they do political talks. What's going on here? What do you got?
I don't know. I think it's this belief that politicians have to be some like weird paragon of perfection, and everybody knows it's a blatant lie. But at the end of the day, like, and in fairness, I suppose, I should walk that back a second. There are some truly chiseled politicians. It's not all, but there are several. I am not one, but I know some that they are the epitome of picket fence. They have some of the cleanest lives, and God bless them. I'm glad they can do it.
Yeah, but have you seen what's in that spare bedroom? Because I bet that whole thing is painted black with red leather everywhere.
I swear to God. Okay, so the slight tangent, I do concern myself sometimes that the portrayal we see of people who are otherwise very clean cut in person always have some weird skeleton in the closet. I try really hard to untrain myself to think that and just let people reveal themselves to me as they are with the usual cues. But to answer your question, this is an Acid Cuba by Drew Estate.
There you go.
These are nice. They're a clean smoke.
Is that the Blue Label one?
It is, yes.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a great. I say it's a great cigar. It's not like a great cigar, but they're just yummy. I mean,
yeah, right,
yeah.
And unfortunately, due to local politicians, they're being banned in basically every city in the state. Thankfully, Egan has not followed suit, so I can still get these, locally, or I can order them. But for example, Roseville bans all flavored tobacco. Apparently, they think that a bunch of teenagers are going to walk down the street with these $8 stick things in their hand, but whatever. Different conversation. So yeah, that's what this guy is. It's basically like smoking a cinnamon stick. It's incredibly clean. Even the smoke tastes good, which is kind of nice.
I like those things.
And I have hit some pretty rough Gurkhas. Gurkhas are amazing. Like you can blow hundreds on Gurkhas and be happy. You can it's great. But if you want something smooth to relax with, nothing too terribly bite, this is where you're at. Now,
you ever had a Sweet Jane?
I have not. Sweet Jane.
Yeah, I think it's some company out of Sturgis that rolls them. The Sweet Janes, they're really sweet. They're very similar to the Cuba Acids. They're good. They're very good. I like them a lot. Yeah, I pick them up out here in West Central Minnesota, no problem. So if you can get Cubas, you could probably get a Sweet Jane.
Roger that.
What's in the glass?
So the glass is.
If you say Jack Daniels, I'm not endorsing you.
Woodenville. It's a Woodenville straight bourbon. I'm gonna use this one because it has the collar on it. I haven't found any of these with the collar since. This is what the bottle looks like.
Oh,
This is
hey.
some of the best bourbon I've ever tasted, and this is it is the winner of the 2020 World Spirits Competition in San Francisco, and it won double gold. It is it is incredibly good. They also have a rye, and they have a bourbon from port casks as well. Those are a little pricier, but this is also one of those like best kept secrets for under $50. So it's like this was like $38 a bottle. Yeah, and the bottles are beautiful. I mean, like I
Epic's
understand
$38. Okay. Now I'm
right.
intrigued.
It's
Yeah.
like what is it? There's a meme that says like I don't know who needs to hear this, but like liquor bottles are not decorative devices, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, don't tell my wife. I have so many. I have an unreasonable amount of them. And I'm like, "Can I please throw these away?" And she's like, "I like the way bottles look." And I'm like, "But I have so many." Like you walk in here and it just screams should be an AA. Like, can I not have them? Can I just keep like 8 or something
Right.
instead of 90? Oh God.
You know, the break is crisp. It's very I mean, it is a bourbon, so it has all of the usual bourbon features, and it is 90 proof, so it is not for the faint of heart. In fairness, this is not; these are not guilt drinks. This will remind you, but on the same token, it is a very crisp break, and the finish is it's just right. It's just smooth enough to feel like the burn was worth it, but not so smooth you feel like you're drinking sugar.
Sure.
And it's kind of all you can ask for, especially for something that's like, in fact, less than $40.
What's the most expensive whiskey you've ever dropped or destroyed in some way?
Oh, I'm actually pretty good with that. In fact, the only one I have dropped or destroyed, I think, is a bottle of this Kirkland 7-year aged stuff.
Oh God.
It was wrapped in a blanket.
The Costco whiskey.
It was wrapped in a blanket in my trunk once, and I pulled the blanket out and it went flying, just shattered all over the street. That was unfortunate. But
so
hey,
if you look behind me, there's a painting of some bottles there. And right here is my broken bottle of Whistle Pig Boss Hog number 6 that I dropped in Tampa, Florida.
I wish I knew what that was or how much it usually costs, because I'm a
well when you buy them new and you can find them there, they start around $4.50, and then they just keep going up because that was the Samurai Scientist, and then the next one was the Magellanic, which I have one of those upstairs, but they're completely different whiskeys. So they make a run of Boss Hogs, and then that's it. So they just appreciate in value because they get more and more scarce. So it was
okay.
At the time I dropped it, the 7s were out, so it was like dropping a PlayStation 5. It's really depressing.
You say that, and I'm thinking to myself, I think I own a gun cheaper than that. Like I have so many things that are expensive that are cheaper than that.
Yeah, it was a bad day. It was a bad day. Okay, wait. So you're a GOP candidate in Minnesota for the Senate, but you don't sound like a lot of GOP candidates that I've encountered. So tell me, what is, like, you get elected, what's your number one thing to do? What's the first thing that you care about?
So the first thing in office, I've thought about this a lot. So it's not a dispute. I know there are a lot of ridiculous accounts on Twitter that go on about how, like, Minneapolis is fine, we don't have a crime problem. We have a crime problem. So first thing in office, I have a very different approach to solve it. Well, not solving. This isn't a solution. I want to make that very clear. This isn't a solution. But this is a measure. We'll call it a measure. And the first thing is to try as absolutely hard as possible to get things like stand your ground and stand your ground and
like a castle doctrine.
Castle doctrine, yeah, that's what it is. So stand your ground and castle doctrine passed in the state. I know there isn't as much traction for constitutional carry, but I'm open and interested with that. I want to get those things passed immediately. The reason for this is our violent crime is mostly at gunpoint. Most of the things these people are doing, they're shoving a gun in your face and saying, give me what you got. Give it to me or I'll effing kill you. Like, that's the sentiment. That's what these people are doing. And if that's the case, people need to be able to defend themselves. Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't have to experience that at all. I don't care who you are. Doesn't matter where you're from, what color your skin is, none of that. Nobody should have to experience that. Nobody should have a loaded gun in their face told, give me what you got or I'm going to kill you. Nobody should experience that. And if that's the kind of game that people want to play in different places, it's a dangerous game. And so the stakes need to be anteed up on either side. That's only fair. And so that's the thing. And I would like my biggest concern is in the state of Minnesota right now. It is cheaper. It is literally cheaper to gamble and just give the person who's robbing you everything you have than it is for you to defend yourself. It is far and away cheaper. You would save more money.
Not only that, Minnesota actually passed out guidance. Well, I shouldn't say Minnesota, Minneapolis and St. Paul in the city limits. They passed out handouts that said, if you get robbed at gunpoint, just give them everything you own. Give them your phone, give them the keys to your car, give them whatever they ask for. This is the guidance from the law enforcement. And it's like, you know what you should give them is a lead diet. Like, you should be blam, 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 blam. Like, no.
Oh, man. I mean, like, hey,
like here's my money, blam, blam, and then they're dead. Like, that's how it should go, because that's the proper interaction for someone who wants to end your life because they value your wallet more than your existence, more than your family, more than your friends, more than your employment, more than anything you can contribute to the world. They value whatever is in your wallet, which is usually a piddly amount, and then some credit cards that'll be canceled within 85 minutes. Like, it's crazy. And then we've got these cucks in office who are like, you know what? Let's just hand things out and tell people, just give it to them. Sharing is good. No, sharing is not good. That's mine. I built it. I earned it. I did the thing to get it. And now you can get what I bought with it. And that was bullets.
Right. I see that perspective, and I don't disagree with it. I can definitely say that probably in slightly less colorful language, now that that's apparently what I'm known for, but in slightly less colorful language, like the cost for robbery shouldn't be execution. But on the same token, if you're going to threaten someone's life, you can't be angry if they choose to use lethal force to defend themselves. Yeah. And that's the end of the day. And what most people don't know is the vast majority of gunshot wounds with pistols are actually not lethal. Right. So a great example of this is over this last weekend, from Friday to Monday, there were 44 just in Chicago alone. There were 44 shootings. There were 8 fatalities.
Right.
That's a 75-ish%, 78-ish% survival rate of shootings, apparently. Most people who are shot with handguns survive. And so you may end up shooting somebody who tries to rob you, and they may not die. At the end of the day, they're not actually guaranteed to die in any circumstance, and they still threatened your life. And so, honestly, the idea of citizen self-defense really isn't that wild when you get down to the brass tacks.
So it was 44 in Chicago over the weekend?
From Friday to Monday.
Was everybody in Chicago on vacation? That's like a bumper day. Like
Apparently you watch Chicago more closely than I do. You might be right. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of times you're hearing about 60, 65, 70 shootings over a weekend. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. I drove through Chicago the other day, but I get on I yell at my kids. I'm like, you're not getting out to go to the bathroom in Chicago at all. Or technically we go through Gary, Indiana first. I'm like, from Gary, Indiana through the end of Chicago, I am not stopping in this stupid town. We're on the tollway. I'm paying for your safety. You shut your mouth and go to sleep. And then we drive through. But I just had to drive through, and it was, when you're just kind of on the tollway and you drive through, it's not a big deal. But man, I went on vacation in Chicago in high school. And even back then, this was 22 years ago. We were going to a comedy club, and you got off the train and you literally like look left and it's the comedy club, and you look right and it's Murderville. Like it is the hood that you should not be in. You can hear it. Like you can hear the hood emanating from the street, and you're like, I don't want to go that way. Like Robert Frost was wrong. I'm going to go to the comedy club and watch people do bad improv.
Right.
But it's only gotten worse since then. That's the crazy part.
It is. And Illinois is, of course, a very tightly gun controlled state. Now, naturally, the Democrats will claim that literally all of the gun crime in their state is because of loose law Republican states around them, which is hilarious.
Right. All the Republicans in Illinois, what they did was they went to Indiana to buy guns, and they brought them back and sold them to the inner city youths illegally. That's how it normally goes. Or the alternative theory is all of the gangsters in Chicago left the state when they don't even leave their own neighborhoods. They left the state, passed background checks and waiting periods in Iowa, and then came back. Like that's the converse theory of what happens. It's like, no, they're just bringing in illegal guns into the state. They're not like going to an Iowa gun shop and buying them. It's like, no, they went all the way down to the tip of Illinois and went to St. Louis to buy a gun and then drove back in their car that they have while they deal drugs from the corner on south side of Chicago.
It's more likely that generations upon generations of gun-owning American citizens, perfectly lawful gun-owning American citizens, have probably created a number of circulating firearms in the state of Illinois they may never regulate out. And like that, therein lies what you might describe as the lie of gun legislation, is that it doesn't matter what the government tells you. They don't have the resources, the manpower, or the authority to achieve what they claim to be able to achieve. There is no way you're going to, quote, get these guns off the street.
Never.
You don't have a 1-to-1 cop to citizen ratio to walk every person through their daily life to make sure they do it.
You can't even carry them.
Right, exactly.
Like legitimate, like I'm kind of joking about like noodle arm cops or whatever. That's technically only those IRS cops. Did you see that IRS training video?
Okay. I saw shots. I never actually watched the video. I could figure out what was going on. How bad was it? Was it bad?
Well, they have the IRS wheelchair agent like, stop, freeze. Like I was dying. Like, what are you guys? Stop. What are you doing? And all these guys look like they just hit every donut shop on the way down to the training exercise. And don't get me wrong, like I would be an embarrassment as a law enforcement agent, but I'm not being hired as a law enforcement agent, nor am I looking to be one.
Right.
So when these guys come out, and some of these guys are 300 pounds, and they're like, stop, freeze, because I really don't want to see if I can run the 50 yards to get to you. Like, it's bad. It's a bad video.
No, it is bad. And I think that like the fact that there is more concern about a bunch of quasi, I don't know, we can call them domestic tourists on January 6th. There's more concern about that than there's about the fact that 87,000 armed IRS agents have been hired.
Yeah.
Or have been, I'm sorry, the call has been put in to hire. I don't know.
Right.
Like that should concern everybody. And like people are freaking out like, oh no, they're just there to, I don't know, hold a place. No. Like if you think for 1 second, the incredibly wealthy, corrupt people you so complain about are going to vote, let's let that sink in, vote to hire 87,000 armed IRS agents to knock on their own doors, you are lying to yourself.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. They will never, like rational self-interest dictates that will never be the case. So like, you're never going to get that. Like, I mean, sorry, not sorry. Like that's how this works. So those guys are hired to intimidate the poors because the IRS and the administration did something really stupid and said, we will now be sticking the government's nose in anybody's business that makes more than $600 in a given transaction. And we now need the resources at gunpoint to make sure you do. And like that's a fact. Those are all facts. The $600 thing's a fact. The 87,000 IRS agents is a fact, and the armed part is a fact. That's not a conspiracy theory. Those are all facts, and that is a perfectly legitimate form of enforcement, even if it seems just a hair tyrannical.
Did you see the fact check that said it's not 87,000 agents? It's actually 87,000 agents. Like, did you see the one where they're like, this is false? What they did was allocate enough money to buy 87,000 agents and then started to do it. But since they'll lose some agents, it's only a net gain of like 30 or 40,000 agents. So therefore it's a false claim. Did you see that one? That was great.
I mean, I didn't realize that like whatever we'll say projected full strength versus practical reality was a legitimate criticism. I mean, you can call it that, but like you're going to eat shit bad when you find out that, like, they actually found all guys to hire.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If the government has the money to hire 87,000 people, the government will hire 87,000 people. That's how they operate. They operate on the predictability of spend. Because they have to spend it. If they don't spend it, they won't get it again. So they do. I have a follow-up question. This is on your Minnesota policy stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Talk to me about marijuana in Minnesota.
Decriminalize it immediately.
Okay, so it's kind of decriminalized. Do you mean decriminalize or do you mean legalize?
I mean, let's stop using buzzwords. I think that anything that grows out of the ground that you could pick out of your backyard should not be a felony to possess. I consider
should it be a misdemeanor to
trespass.
Possess?
I don't think it should be any kind of law to possess. Personally.
Okay, good. Because I'm like, wait, he's saying felony, and like, what about a misdemeanor?
Sorry.
Like, I don't.
It's a criticism of modern times, not a criticism of the whole thing. So I should go to the whole extreme, or not extreme, but like at the end of the day. So I'll go like this: like we have lost. I don't even have a number for it. We've lost a considerable number of cops to kicking in doors on people that are trying to enjoy some weed in their living room. That's disgusting. Right. Like people ask me, "What's your platform?" I say, "Weed and guns." You should be able to have your liberty, protect your family, and enjoy your weed. If that's what you'd like to do, I am all behind you. I don't even partake. I'm a tobacco guy. But like at the end of the day, there are so many weed smoking Minnesotans. They deserve to not have the government breathing down their neck. And let's talk about the fact that if you do smoke weed and you do want to exercise your liberty, guess what you just lost? Any access to the order produced by police. Because if you call the police, they are now 100% likely to figure out from just the smell alone that you're a weed smoker, and they should try to raid your stash because you may have felony level possession, and that may get them a promotion. So you're really in a rough spot. I mean, and I guess like I'll let the whole cat out of the bag. I'm also very much against no-knock raids. That should not be the law of this country anywhere. That to me is a disgusting, abhorrent breach of American liberty. The idea that somebody could kick in your door without saying a damn word, shoot you and your family because maybe they were holding sharp implements. I don't know. Maybe they looked at you too harshly. Who knows? It was the heat of the moment. We had to make decisions split second. I don't like that. I don't like that because perfectly lawful actions could cause you to be shot. Like, I mean, and Amir Locke is a perfectly good example of this. It was never proven that he was a part of anything, yet strangely the dude was just ventilated in the living room. And he had a valid permit to carry. I carried the gun that kid was shot holding for 7 years. The FN-57 is a great gun. And I'll tell you right now, that was disgusting. And hey, what's really messed up is the whole thing was legal. The whole thing was legal, top to bottom. That's perfectly lawful. And that's what needs to change. Because at the end of the day, no American should sit in their home terrified that some G-men clad to the nines, armed to the teeth, are going to kick in their door and say, hey, are you enjoying a substance not approved by the pharmaceutical industry?
Oh my God.
That's disgusting.
Dude,
it's disgusting.
So I'm driving through my family. The reason all my stories involve driving is because my family and I just took a vacation and my parents live down in Florida. So we drove down to Florida. Then my wife and I went over to Houston. I had a little work to do in Texas. And then we flew down to the Caribbean for 12 days. And then we flew back to Florida, picked up the kids, and had to drive back up to Minnesota. Right. So as we're driving back, I got like a cough going on. You're on vacation. Who knows? I was licking bartenders or whatever. I probably got AIDS. And so I needed something to help out. So I went to buy some Dayquil, right? And they check your ID to buy Dayquil pills. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, so I'm on a fucking list because I bought Dayquil. Like, you have to scan my driver's license to buy a cough medicine. It's like, what do I look like Trayvon Martin? I'm just, that was a joke. That was an inappropriate joke. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just.
Okay. Your humor. That's fine.
But see, that was the mantra, right? Like, he's just buying these things. It's like, well, yeah, those things are used in a drink called lean. That was kind of the whole thing. Right. Then that's why cough syrup is being regulated all of this sudden. But this wasn't even cough syrup. This is gel caps. And I'm like, if motherfuckers are out here chomping on gel caps to get high, we've got real problems. Like, I hope this has the Vapo rub in it. But like, what is going on? Like, how do we fight against this stuff?
Okay, so that's a really tough question. And to be honest with you, as just like a regular dude, it's a little complicated for me to try to answer it. That being said, it's not that I can't speak to it. So understand that the things that I come up with in this particular category may not be the most polished. I'm happy to admit it. Now, I personally view drugs and their abuse as a parenting problem, not a society problem. Most of the time, drug use occurs in early childhood. Obviously, adults get addicted. That's the thing. But quite often it becomes there's a whole reason why we had DARE, right? Because like they established there were gateway drugs. There's a progression. You start using one, you start using the others, and at the end of the day,
DARE was great. You taught me how to use drugs.
I swear to God, you're not the only person that said that. So like, hey, I stayed away from it. I live a basically squeaky clean lifestyle. Besides, the liquor and the cigars, I don't use any drugs.
Yeah, for the most part, me too. Actually, right. Like I'm really not I don't really care about any drugs. I'm not a big fan of weed. I don't like the way it makes me feel, so I don't use it. I like whiskey. I have an occasional cigar. Now, while on vacation, I did partake in a different country in some fun things, like mushrooms and stuff. But that's the first time I've ever done anything. Awesome. Yeah, it's the first time I've ever done anything like that, and I wouldn't do it regularly because it's ridiculous. But it's like, well, you're on vacation, give it a shot. But yeah, no, right. like I'm not a huge fan of drugs either. But I look at the damage that the enforcement of drug policy has caused, and I'm like, this seems worse than what the drugs do.
Thank you. That's like, honestly, so like this is what, because I do run into some resistance from conservatives. And I'm like, hey, I don't think a lot of drugs should be illegal. I think there are some drugs that we might want to wean back and forth maybe a little bit. But like most drugs, I'm mostly okay with. I mean, things like heroin, things like fentanyl, and things like we need to have a little more of a conversation about that and how we're going to do like what we're going to do. But as far as like the everyday things, like, I mean, like lots of people use coke, lots of people use weed, there's so much out there. And at the end of the day, laws prevent people and prevent societies from coming to conclusions and solutions to those problems, because the government can come and like drive cop cars around, and they can yell at you for doing things they catch you doing. But the government is limited to exactly that, what they catch you doing.
Right.
But at the end of the day, pardon me, that sucks. Like, I'm just going to be straight up honest with you. That sucks. That's terrible. Like that, it doesn't come remotely close to problem. When people say we should ban guns, I'm like, oh yeah, like we ban drugs because that's working. And like, because at the end of the day, it's clear bans are a dismal failure. The government just does not have it's not the kind of entity that can accomplish that. As much as they want to claim so, prohibition is the gold standard in that failure. Now, in regards to drugs, I think that we should, because like at the end of the day, like you said, I think there's no difference between somebody ruining their life with a drug and their life being ruined by the U.S. government saying you have a felony, you'll never be able to own guns, you'll never be able to vote, and you are now considered a public pariah. Good luck getting a job. Get screwed. Like that. I don't see the difference there.
Right.
And one of those where you're addicted to a substance, you may get clean and go have a normal life, but you're never going to get clean of that felony charge.
Nope. You don't get clean out of jail. Like you're in jail. There's no like, oh, I'm in jail rehab and then suddenly I'm not in jail. Nope. You stay there until your sentence is over. And that's the end of it. Or you get dead. Right. Like that's the other thing. You get shot by a cop. You get involved you get involved in an illegal drug deal with dangerous people because all you wanted was a substance, but you can't just go down to your local store and buy it. All of this stuff, like this violent crime epidemic that we talk about all the time in Chicago. Like if we're honest about what it is, I make jokes about going through Chicago, but when I was going through a couple years ago, we were going to drive down somewhere, had to go through Chicago. And one of my in-laws was like, oh, are you going to be safe? And I was like, I'm like a white guy driving through Chicago. The statistics would suggest that I would be in danger if I was a young black man who lived in Chicago in a high drug neighborhood, because it's the drug enforcement creates this black market of sales that are illegal. And once you're doing specific felony activity, other felony activities like killing someone who could put you in prison become not so a little more palatable, I'll say.
Oh, sure. Well, and like honestly, well, that's a perfectly reasonable assertion. We can go a step much more reasonable. and I honestly, because I've been thinking about this a lot in terms of like arguments on election integrity and so on and so forth. Like these are like circular feeding loops. So you have an impoverished Black community, right? So like the people in there, they don't get a lot of opportunity. There's high crime, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because drugs are illegal, the second you ban something, you drive up its value on the market, because the politicians will never tell you people are still buying and selling it. They'll just tell you it's illegal, you can't do that now. And of course, the yuppies and the leftists, they're all like, oh, yep, that's it. That's just the whole world. It just doesn't happen anymore. Well, unfortunately, that's bullshit. So like, that's not remotely true. And what ends up happening is the value of it skyrockets. Like it just takes off into over the horizon. And now you have a bunch of youth in Black communities who are looking at these drugs going, okay, listen, I know it's illegal, but like, dude, I can make so much money off of this.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to be broke. I don't have to be poor.
Well,
I can sling this stuff and I'm made. Like I can do it. And I get respect too.
I can't give the American analogy because I'm too much of a normie. I don't even know. Like I represent people who sell drugs, so I can't buy them because you can't buy them from your clients. That's a recipe for disaster.
I was gonna say that don't work.
No, yeah, you don't want to do that. But I'll give the analogy. While I was down in the Caribbean, I'm at this resort, and it's an all-inclusive resort. But the drug dealers just walk down the beach, and they'd sell you whatever you want at any time. So this guy would come up and he's like, hey, you want stuff? And I'm like, well, no, like I don't. And he's like, I got 2 grams of Coke, $300. And like, so I don't know how much cocaine costs at all. Like I have no idea. But what I do know is that guy didn't sell me cocaine, but he went to the next person on the beach and sold them cocaine. And then he sold them ecstasy and Viagra. And he sold everybody Viagra because it's like, well, everybody wanted Viagra, I guess. And he's selling Viagra like $50 a pill. This dude cleans thousands of dollars a day on the beach in this third world country. Like, I don't know what this stuff fetches in the United States, but you're absolutely right. Like when you tell someone like you can go work at McDonald's for $8 an hour or whatever, or you can make $2-3 grand a day selling weed or meth or whatever your poison is.
Oh, yeah.
Because they've artificially inflated the value due to the risk associated with it. And these guys look and they're like, there's no way, there's nothing I can do on earth that will make me, $25,000-$30,000 a month, but this will.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And to be honest with you, like most people would be dumb not to take that opportunity. That opportunity fell in their lap, it would be like the risk versus reward. The reward is so incredibly high. I could not blame anybody who's young for making that choice, because that is so much money. And you're looking at this impoverished neighborhood, like, how am I going to get out of it? And somebody says, yo, you come up with a small pile of money, I'll give you enough product to, you can make. And that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because now that person's essentially selling that relatively young person into a life of crime.
Yep.
But the price tag is what drives it. It's not because I think people should be criminals. I think if you have enough organized crime that has no victims and it's 100% voluntary, you have an unrepresented populace, is what you have.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate thing with drugs. Like, drugs have undeniably bad side effects. True. Cocaine addiction ravages people. It can mess with their brains. It can cause them stimulant addiction in general. It's not just cocaine, but there are other regulated stimulants like Ritalin, Adderall, Provigil, stuff like that. Those types of addictions can mess with your brain, change your brain chemistry. Sure. But that's a choice that you get to make or you don't get to make, and consequences that you have to deal with. Same thing with heroin. I don't want people doing heroin. But at the same time, caffeine addiction produces real negative side effects. Like all of the people I know, all of them, without without fails, I can't even function without my cup of coffee in the morning. And they're not joking. Like, their brain requires the caffeine that they intake every single day. And we don't bat an eye. Sugar addiction makes people fat and kills them all the time. Fatsos are dropping left and right. I feel the tremors every time one dies and falls over. It's really terrible. Sorry, fat joke. But like sugar, diabetes, like these are horrific killers at a level far beyond fentanyl. We've got an obesity epidemic in the United States that kills way more people through heart disease or other related complications. And it's like, we don't bat an eye at this. Alcohol, this is terrible stuff for you. Here. I'm saving the children from the liquor every single sip. But it's awful for you, and it's on par with any of the hard drugs. Because if you abuse this stuff, no matter what it is, the substance abuse can be devastating to your body. But you get to choose that. And the government has decided you get to choose it here on alcohol, here on tobacco, here on caffeine, here on sugar, but not on weed, cocaine, or any of these other things. Like, for some reason, those are verboten. It's weird.
So I think that there's and like, yeah, I'm fond of saying an argument can be made, right? Because like an argument can always be made, and I think that, like, you know, at the end of the day, and then I think this is why I put this in the parenting category, because how we raise our children is really the more important part of their behavioral mannerisms. That's where they learn to be who they are. And so if you educate your children about this, and it isn't perfect for each child, admittedly, and some of them may need a longer hand at it even after they're adults. But if you raise your children properly, you know, like, so for example, you know, full disclosure, my family history, tons of addiction. So I was raised as a kid to avoid addictive things. I avoided as much alcohol, as much tobacco, as much of anything as I could. In fact, I was raised specifically to be told, hey, due to the way like our family history is, you need to avoid substances as much as humanly possible. And that taught me a great deal of control when it comes to things like this, to make sure that I never go through more than one of these every couple days. I don't go through more than, you know, a drink or so every couple nights, or maybe even not. I've gone several weeks. In fact, there was a time I went, oh man, I want to say I went a year and a half without drinking because I had a really bad time. And I was like, you know what, maybe I just need to stop for a bit. And so I spent a year and a half being sober. It was just better that way. And I needed to learn that, because, and we all need to have that level of self-control, but we don't learn it if we have the government saying you can't. If the government says you can't, you don't think about it. You don't get to concern yourself with it. It's not a topic of conversation. And in reality, most people will usually end up using a substance, whether it's caffeine, you know, alcohol, tobacco, at some point in their life. And they need to learn how to control that. They need to learn how to use in moderation if they're going to, and how that impacts their life. If you can't make it to work on time, if you can't keep your life in order, don't do it. Just flat out don't do it. And get the help you need.
Counterpoint. If it's destroying your life and you can't get to work on time, become a YouTuber and don't have a time to go to work. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Okay, I have a question. This is critically important.
Sure, yeah, let's go.
Why in the hell did you reach out to me? Like, what was wrong with you that caused this mishap to occur? Because, like, you seem like a pretty cool dude. You're like, oh, I'm running for state senate. I'm doing all this stuff. You know, I'm getting blasted by the DFL because they're liars or whatever. And then you're like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna reach out to an asshole on YouTube to talk about this live. Like, what's wrong with you, sir?
Well, I hope only the very best things. And in answer, actually, I've been a fan of your show for a while. I quite enjoy your content, and I think that we'll say the variety and the veracity of the perspectives you show on your channel are incredible. And I'm not just shamelessly servicing you here. There are a number of.
Well, I'm being serviced.
There are a number.
I'm good with it.
there are a number of legal professionals that you put on the show that are quite knowledgeable as well. And when you disagree with their views, it's not shitty, it's not stupid, it's not, you know, it's not absurd. It's very honest commentary. And you're not a prick to anybody, and nobody's a serious prick to you. It's very smooth sailing, and not in the way that most people think. And I would imagine a lot of, Minnesotans, we Minnesotans, we're very risk averse. We don't like confronting anybody. We don't like having arguments or anything like that. And admittedly, it's a weakness as much as it's a strength, right? But like, it's how we are. It's natural. I mean, I was born here. I was born downtown St. Paul. I've lived here my whole life. That's how it is. I get it. But like, so it is like for the average Minnesotan, your content's probably a little tense, but it's not bad. It's not bad. And so like, for example, I think I watched literally all of your coverage of the Rittenhouse trial every day.
Oh, thank you.
Literally every day. Listen to the whole thing. That was a travesty. Poor kid. Glad he made it out. And, I think that the amount of propaganda was terrible there. And in his experiences taught me an incredible amount about the way that the media can harm you. They can be dishonest about you, even if you don't deserve it. About how, they will, like, much like the DFL today, or yesterday rather, is saying that I want to murder people because I used a turn of phrase that was convenient for them. And it's such an incredible extreme. You don't consider it. It doesn't pop into your head like, hey, people could think that, because like I don't think of people as murderers. I don't think of people as super violent. And I've been asking people on Twitter, like, hey, explain to me why you think about politicians that way. Why is it that when a politician says something, the first thing you think is they're going to kill me? That person wants to murder me. Why? Why do you think that? What makes you think that? Because if you thought that about every stranger in public, you'd never leave your house. You would have the most obscenely sheltered, under the rock, in the basement kind of life. But you don't. You probably go to work every day. You probably do have a social circle. Why is it you jump to that conclusion first? Is it because some Democrat website told you to? Or do you have some kind of weird tick that makes you... Anyway, so I've seen you produce an incredibly, incredibly objective perspective. And like I've listened to some of your arguments on law, especially in the Rittenhouse case, but also in other cases. I think I watched most of your coverage of the Kim Potter trial as well. That was also incredible and very disappointing. And so, I mean,
sure was.
and hey, like, ideally, and hey, so I mean, full disclosure, I have actually, and this is something I'll talk about today, but I've marched with BLM before. I've marched with BLM in full kit, with this and more. And I addressed a 7,000 person BLM crowd because at the time the news was all saying, the police murdered George Floyd in the street. And I was like, well, if the police are murdering people in the street, I'm not taking that sitting down. And so I knew people that knew some organizers. We showed up and we're like, hey, we're here to support you, and I know we're usually on the right side of the coin, but we don't believe in police killing people. So let's go. And I was given a bullhorn. I got to address their entire crowd. I didn't say anything I remotely regret. And in fact, the turning point of the conversation was simply that we have a sacred sort of sacred relationship, a sacred trust with our police in this country, that if you submit to police custody, you will be treated fairly, you will survive, and you will make it to a trial. And if you're not safe in police custody, you're not safe anywhere in America. And that's what we expect of our police. We expect our police to take people alive every chance they get. Admittedly, can that happen all the time? No. Some people are going to fight, and they're going to fight all the way to the end. And there's nothing the police can do about that except for defend themselves and make sure that no bystanders are hurt if they can. That's all that we can ask. But at the end of the day, it's what we would expect if there is no other way. And so, I mean, like, I've seen both sides of this coin. I've seen like thousands of leftists suddenly not afraid of guns and taking pictures of me in full kit going, these guys are great. So like, honestly, like there's a lot of gray area here that people don't talk about. But
so sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, at the end of the day, with the Kim Potter trial, warrant service, especially for felonies, warrant service is the minimum we ask of our police. It is the basic requirement they have. The Supreme Court has ruled the police have no obligation to protect you. The police have zero obligation, according to the Supreme Court. There's no obligation for the police to protect you at all whatsoever. If you are murdered in front of them, technically speaking, they are not required to do anything about it. And so it's important for people to understand that and understand they should protect and defend themselves. And in the case of Kim Potter, it was unfair to characterize her that way. She was trying to do the guy a favor. She's trying to do him a favor to pull her taser. She just screwed up. And
so I got a question then, because interestingly, you've given kind of two contrary positions on George Floyd. So you mentioned that you marched with BLM initially. Has your opinion on George Floyd and the situation changed or evolved over time, or what is it now? Because Right. You mentioned that he ate a bunch of drugs. He was trying to avoid jail, so it makes sense. He eats the drugs to try and avoid jail. My supposition from that statement is you believe that Floyd died due to an overdose rather than a Chauvin knee drop. So what is like? How has that changed from your initial thing? Can you explain that journey to me?
Sure. Well, because the news was reporting at the time that he was murdered in the street, and the videos were all very, very graphic, and they were very, I guess, for lack of a better term, clean cut.
Right. It just shows it shows Chauvin kneeling on a guy with a smug asshole look on his face.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like the dude was callous as shit. Like I don't know what the hell is wrong with the guy, but like he was just like, yeah, this is fine. Also, tell that crowd of people to go piss off. Like, how do you say that to people? Like, that's ridiculous. I mean, like, and admittedly, different conversation about like the Chauvin trial and things like that. I did watch coverage on that as well. And like, different conversation on that, like the legal end of that, different story. But, as far as George Floyd goes, like he was a horribly callous individual for that. And that's incredibly unacceptable. That's not what we expect of our cops. We expect our cops to, like, if you're not fighting them, like beating them up or something, if you're not being like, violent with them, we expect them to care about your well-being and ensure that you get the help you need as fast as you get it, as fast as you can get it.
I had said pretty early on, the look on Chauvin's face is what would make him guilty in court. Like whether or not his sentence and verdict is justified, he had the look on his face that was like, all you have to do as a prosecutor is just like, you don't even have to play the video, just zoom in on his face. And it's like, look at him. And he may not have meant it. I don't know. I don't know what's in Chauvin's mind or heart or anything like that. Right. But that look on his face is that sealed the deal. No jury was going to let that guy go when he again, the best I can describe is he looks like a smug asshole.
Oh yeah. Well, and like at the end of the day, like we call upon our police to deal death if they need to. We don't want them ever to do that. But if they need to, we expect that of them because we as a society prefer I know a lot of people who are like hardcore anti-state and stuff. And we have a lot of great arguments and conversations about that. And it's like, dude, you can hate the police all you want, but there is no version of human society that will not include police. I promise you. Like, even if you had the anarcho-capitalist paradise, there is no state. Zero state, the state's abolished, it goes away. It doesn't matter. You will still have the equivalent of law, and you will still have the equivalent of enforcers because people with money will always pay other young, strapping assholes to go enforce the law for them. Like,
right. Well, you had even the Chaz, right? Like the Chaz had my favorite person ever, the warlord Raz. That guy was hilarious.
He's like, yo, we got some AKs in this trunk. Come get these AKs. Let's go. And I'm just sitting there going like, okay, so I like the AKs. It's based very, very, very aesthetic. I like the wood furniture. Not sure I like them being handed out to every Tom, Dick, and Gaddafi, but I do like the AKs. They're very cool. So but yeah, no, it's just wild, right? Like that always occurs. That always occurs because people require order. They don't know what to do without it. And so anyway, to answer your question, I was watching the coverage of the George Floyd trial, your coverage, and I noticed in part of the coverage, because I was trying to figure out the truth of it, because I felt very had, and I was seeing lots of conflicting information, and I was worried about it because on the one hand, I don't think the police should ever take a hand to people unless they have to, and on the other hand, I also think that police do have a right to protect themselves because they are still people. So there's a give and take there, right? And so I was like, okay, so I want to see all this. So first off, I had no idea he was arrested kind of beforehand behind the shop. I didn't know about that. So when he was in the vehicle on the other side of I think it was whatever, like Cup Foods or in an alley somewhere, and he was doing some drugs in his car, very, very baller, and doing this thing. He was approached by some cops, I think, about the deal that was going on in Cup Foods, and he was like, yeah, go fly a kite, right? And they're like, well, we're cops and we don't take that as well. And so there was a whole ado with that. And then they found a bunch of partially digested, I think you've got to remember that, right? They found partially digested fentanyl tablets inside the squad. So this dude was basically raining half-eaten fentanyl tabs. So this dude was really having a bad time. And
This poor man couldn't even buy whole fentanyl tabs. The economy is so bad he had to buy. I kid. Sorry, go on.
No, it's fair. And so, like, at the end of the day, like, this dude was put in one hell of a spot. We all know he had, like, you know, he didn't want to go back to prison, and I will never fault somebody for not wanting to go to prison. That is horrifying. So fair, 100% fair. I mean, like, whatever his history is, there is a history. I've read his criminal history. It's complicated. It's wild. And if he served his time, I don't care about it at the end of the day. Like, if you do a thing, you get arrested, you go to prison, you serve, and you get released, in my opinion, you have served your debt to society. What you do after that is on you. And I think that's the way that our restorative justice system is supposed to work.
It's how it should be. Like, if you don't want that person out in society, then don't put them there.
Don't let them out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, if that's the thing, you know, and admittedly, there's a whole, like, in the state of Minnesota, we have a terrible revolving door on justice, different conversation, but, like, you know, absolutely. So in that case, I'm like, okay, so he's out. He doesn't want to go back. Understandable. He won't physically fight the cops because I think he's digested a ton of his stash. So he's probably not feeling the best. He's very afraid because he doesn't want to go back to prison. But he also doesn't. It's clear, like, the dude was huge. If you wanted to fight the cops,
big dude, yeah,
dead. Like, are you joking? If you wanted to fight those cops, they would have been thrown like sheets. Like,
yeah, he was like 6'4", like 230.
Dude, the guy's, like, seriously. When people say, like, George Floyd fought the cops, I'm like, did you see that guy? If he fought the cops,
Chauvin's a little dude. Chauvin, right. I mean, he's not, like, tiny, but he's not big.
Dude. No, exactly. Like, if he was fighting the cops, dude, Chauvin, we'd be picking up pieces of Chauvin all over, you know, like the 38 in Chicago area. So it's clear he was not trying to fight the cops. He was, however, gently resisting. He was, like, you know, he was having a hard time. And admittedly, as soon as they noticed he was not in a full state of mind, I personally think they should have dialed 911 before they even got him out there. And they should have been putting him on the street for a 911 hold, put him on an ambulance, send him to a hospital. I guarantee you he would have resisted that less. Hospitals are not prisons. So, you know, you can get sent there, might get out, might not. But at the end of the day, the dude needed a doctor more than he needed a knee. Do I think the knee killed him? That's a whole different conversation. And there's two autopsies. People are going to side with one. People are going to side with the other. I've looked at the maneuver, like the Israeli maneuver. It was a maneuver that the Israeli police use and the Israeli military uses, and it's based off of a bunch of different ratios of distances between, like the ground from someone's, like, fully whatever. There's a whole bunch of, like, different measurements they use, but it's supposed to allow enough room for a human neck to exist in that space without compressing it. That's the whole point of the maneuver, as so far as I've read. Now, how that affected him, I wasn't there. Whole different story, and I'm not going to make a bunch of claims on that. What I do know is, with partially digested fentanyl tabs, I don't think the cops were sucking on him, so it had to have probably been him. And so,
yeah, that's the hard part. It's like, okay, because for me, I'm like, look, I kind of have a problem with the knee thing. It's not, I mean, it may have been how he's trained, but it's not the current training. It's not what he's supposed to be doing. But at the same time, like, bro, you got a shitload of opiates in your system. And
fair point.
That's like a problem too. Like, we've got, and I don't know, like, I'm not a biologist, I'm not a toxicologist. I don't really care at the end of the day. I see how Chauvin was found guilty. My biggest problem with the Chauvin trial was, I don't think it should have been held in Hennepin County. I don't think you could get a fair jury in Hennepin County right after the whole county caught on fire due to this. And so what I would have wanted them to do, and I think they should have done, is move the trial to outstate Minnesota. Move it to Mankato, move it to Rochester, move it to St. Cloud, move it to Duluth. Move it somewhere out there. Or, I mean, if you don't want to go there, you can go to a much smaller county. Like, you can move it to Wilmer out in my county or something like that. Then I could be in the courtroom. I can make a shitload of money. It would be great. But but really, like, having the trial, whether George Floyd is, or whether Derek Chauvin, is guilty or not, I don't think he got a fair trial in Minnesota. I think Peter, what's his name? Starts with a C. Whatever the judge's name was, I think he made some very questionable decisions that were well outside of his discretion. I think he included evidence, like, against his own orders. He said, Peter Callum was his name. He said, You cannot bring this evidence in. And then the state brought that evidence in. He's like, well, you can't bring it in next time. And then they brought it in again. And I'm like, dude, that's just a mistrial. And then when we had the juror fiasco, where it's like the juror said, I never participated in any of these marches or anything. It's like, here's a picture of you in a shirt that says, don't kneel on my neck, at an event where George Floyd's brother and sister are speaking. Homie, you lied on voir dire, and that's a mistrial. But I mean, it's all obviated at the end of the day because Chauvin pled guilty to the Fed charges. And so even if he were acquitted on the Minnesota stuff or mistried on the Minnesota stuff, he'd still be serving the Fed time. But it's like, it just bothered me because I want to see justice done right, even if no matter what the outcome is on this stuff. And that's the thing where with Chauvin, I have a big problem. Like, I don't see justice's process is being followed here. The founders laid out a whole bunch of steps that we need to follow, and some of them got missed here. And that's my big issue. If they would have gone through everything, found Chauvin guilty, I mean, I said almost right away, I was like, that look on his face, I don't see how a jury on earth doesn't convict him just because of how he looked. Even if he was completely not guilty, even if you could show definitively that George Floyd definitely overdosed and that Derek Chauvin's knee was not like on his neck at all in any way, like you could prove it all, the look on his face would have hung the guy, because juries look at that and go, well, that guy's an asshole.
Well, not only is he an asshole, but it's displaying callous disregard for human life. And honestly, like at the end of the day,
that's what I think an asshole is.
Right? Hey, fair point, fair point. Well, I mean, that at the end of the day, that's how people choose to sort of like morally prosecute the cops. Is they look at it and they're like, like you're gonna openly carry a gun. The whole state's gonna know you have qualified immunity at your back. You can do basically whatever you want. And if you can justify it in your report, congratulations, there may be a promotion in the works for you. So if we all know that, and once again, I don't want to slander any cops, and not because I'm a GOP endorsed candidate, I don't want to slander any cops, because I know that there are wonderful cops out there that are very interested in the Constitution. They're very interested in their oath, and they like upholding it. And it's a huge part of their lives. So I'm not trying to malign any cops, but everybody who isn't a cop mostly understands what qualified immunity means. And qualified immunity means we better have an enormous bond of trust with you. Because if you do not hold human life as compassionately important, we are desperately afraid that you are going to take it when it doesn't need to be taken, when it isn't necessary. And when Derek Chauvin knelt on George Floyd's neck and fielded a crowd from point A to point B for, I don't know, maybe it was for the noobs that he was training. I don't know. Like, but when he decided he was going to do that, and that like whether or not his compassion to this guy was more important or was less important than whatever his his image, like good luck feeling that. But if that's when he decided that, it was kind of over. Like it didn't matter whether what he did was right or wrong at that point, because once you completely ignore the compassion for human life, everybody sees that and goes, wait, no, you should not have qualified immunity, and you definitely did something wrong. Even if, as you mentioned, even if he was completely innocent, it wouldn't matter. And that's the reality. We expect our cops to be compassionate, and they need to be compassionate. If it looks like somebody's ODing, maybe you should try to render aid and spend a little less time kneeling on their neck. And it's just kind of, it's what we expect. And if a body comes out of it,
I think that's what did him in. What really bothered me was the conviction of the other officers, specifically the one who's like, we should actually check this guy. Like we should do, I'm not noticing vitals. We should roll him over and check him. And then they still tagged that guy, Lane, I think was his name. It was either King or Lane, but I'm pretty sure it was Thomas Lane. And he's like, hey, I'm checking his pulse. I'm not getting a pulse. We need to roll him over. We need to do something. And Chauvin's like, nah, or whatever. Like that guy gets tagged, and I'm like, for reckless disregard. I'm like, but he showed regard for human life. Like he did the thing he was supposed to do. How do you find him guilty? That one to me was a big issue.
Oh, absolutely. So like, admittedly, I think I may have actually missed that part because I didn't catch that. That's horrible.
That happened later. Like they
Oh,
didn't get a
okay,
lot
that
of press. The Fed charges on the other 3 officers came in. They came in between Rittenhouse and Johnny Depp, and it was
oh
a
my God.
disaster.
Good
It was
luck
a
getting
really
through
big
that.
mess. Yeah.
Holy crap. No, I mean, like, and at the end of the day, like, the goal is justice. Like, I personally don't care if Derek Chauvin rots in a hole for the rest of his life. I don't know the guy. I have no concern over that. What I do care about is whether or not justice is served, and it's served in the correct way, which is where the most people agree on it. And that goes all the way back to my statements on the principles of the founding of this nation, the idea that if people don't believe that things are going the way that they're supposed to, it doesn't matter if they are or aren't. You have to manage that belief.
Right.
And if people need to do the checking, they need to do the investigating, they need to do the check, the recheck, the triple check, the quadruple. You better have patience, because if you don't have patience with them, that's going to foment dissent. That's going to foment a bunch of instability, and those people are going to be rioting. Those people are going to be protesting. There's going to be a whole bunch of crap going on, and you could avoid it all by saying, okay, listen, all right, fine. You know what? We've done this 86 times. Here's 87. Let's do it again. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, to me, for the stability, for the predictability, it's worth it. It's worth every dime. Like you'll never find me. You'll never, I mean, I find it inappropriate personally, but you'll never find me complaining on the internet because they're investigating Donald Trump again. I don't think he's Satan, but if these people need another investigation to prove the guy's innocent of something, fine, go ahead, knock yourself out. He's got the money, he'll prove himself innocent, and then you'll just be mad again. I don't know. But like at the end of the day, the dude's proven innocent all the time. So like if you need to investigate, fine.
So my follow-up question is, how many federal agencies have you worked for?
None.
No alphabet soups in your work history?
You know, dude, like, okay, so I'm not going to name a bunch of names because of all of like the international fame, and I don't want to like make my former employers all pissed off, but I have the most uneventful life you've ever imagined. Like, aside from like the riots and the craziness that went on, I'm just a garden variety rank and file employee. I have never made more than 50 grand a year in my whole life.
Okay, so you don't want to, which is fine. You don't want to name your specific employers. What industries have you worked in? What's your kind of work experience background?
Oh, sure.
Do you have a military background? Like because you're like kind of big. You're like not huge, but you're like a little beefy, and you got like the plate carrier on the wall. You got a hatchet in the background. Like so what's the history? Tell me about Stephen Lowell.
That hatchet I bought for some camping trips, and it still has, actually, I'll take it down. It still has the dirt on it from like hacking things and wood and whatnot while I was camping a couple of years ago. Thought it was cool. I looked up a bunch of YouTube videos, and it was considered to be the best deal for the money, so I bought it and I used it, and I never even cleaned it. It's just hanging on the wall because it looks cool. That Warhammer, that is an awesome Warhammer. I bought it at Sabersmiths at the Renaissance Festival. The Renaissance Festival is awesome, by the way. I'm mad that they've gotten really anti-weapon lately, which is really frustrating because I have an awesome, like, it's not out here, but I have an awesome, like, really wide leather belt. I've spent thousands of dollars at the Renaissance Festival. Like their goods are some of the best around. If you ever go and you're wondering if you should buy some, spend the money. It's worth it. Those tradesmen are amazing.
I can't ever get to the tradesmen because every time I go to the Renaissance Festival, I do one thing. I look at my wife and I go, I don't give a shit what you do. I'm going to Vegetable Justice and I'm going to buy a turkey leg and stand there and watch that guy make fun of idiots for the rest of my time. Like I'll stand there all day watching him make fun of people because they're
really good at it. They're really good at it.
And if people don't know, Vegetable Justice is like the last bastion of honest, unapologetic comedy. The last time I went there, it was so funny. Like it was terrible, but it was great. This young kid goes up, and he was darker skin colored, we'll say. I don't know what particular race. It doesn't really matter. And he's about to throw the first tomato, right? And the guy's sitting there in the tomatoes and the stalks. He says, hey, kid, wait. And he goes, I bet I can pick your dad out of the crowd. And I lost it. I'm like, what?
Oh my
It
God.
was the funniest, most horrifying thing I've ever seen. And that all I want in my life is to go back to the place where we can make a joke and just laugh. Like that's what I want. So so with the Renaissance Festival, that's all I do is I go to the last bastion of comedic freedom on the planet. I brought like I was there with my wife and her cousin who is female, and my wife was with our kid. This is a long time ago. He was little.
Sure.
And they're at the thing next to Vegetable Justice, which is like this treasure hunt. It's like a playground with like coins, and little kids go find the coins, and they find the coins to get a prize at the end. And I'm standing there with my wife's cousin, and he looks at me like I didn't buy any tomatoes or anything. And he goes, "Hey, what trailer park did you grab that one from?" And I was like, yes. I thought I was about to get roasted, but turns out it was you. That was funnier than what could have happened. So I love those guys. But I never go. But you artfully and craftily dodged the question. What work background, what professional background do you have? Like you don't have to name names, but like what industries have you worked in? Were you in banking? Were you in construction? Like, what do you do?
So I've had an interesting life. My father died when I was 11 of bladder cancer. It was a very fast moving cancer. And he also had a phobia of doctors, really weird. But he died when I was very young, and I've been in a blended family my whole life, growing up in urban areas. I grew up in Frogtown. And I remember at 5 years old, I was riding my bike all over, like the St. Thomas area and whatnot, all the way back. Like I was all at 5 years old. That's how safe the world was in the 80s, by the way. So it was a very, very interesting, very different experience. I just explored when I was a kid, and I didn't have a ton of supervision. When I went to school, I was born ambidextrous. I was yelled at by a teacher in order to choose a side. So I'm actually left-handed because a Minnesota educator intimidated me as a child and told me I had to pick a hand to use. I couldn't be ambidextrous. It's hilarious. So that's why I'm left-handed, if anybody's wondering. And so I've been poor my whole life. I ate off of food shelves till I was 13, 14, and my mother and my stepfather worked very hard to make sure we had the best family we could have, and eventually they were able to purchase a home. When I got out of school, I didn't go to college at all. I eventually wandered into it later and discovered how much of a den of gamesmanship it can be. But beforehand, I stocked shelves at a pharmacy. I took a small electrician's apprenticeship out of state for a bit, came back. It was only like a year or something, and then I got a random job at a place downtown Minneapolis doing security. My security team made over 100 citizens arrests in just 1 year. I've put more handcuffs on people than some cops have during the course of their careers. In fact, during most cops' careers. And I've watched. I've been right next to Minneapolis police when they took a particular subject down at gunpoint. I've written more extensive reports than a lot of police reports are. I did a lot of private security. I was in private security for 7 years. And then when I was done in private security, I picked up a random job for drafting for a startup, and it tore off, put almost all of their competitors out of business, and went great.
Like technical drafting, like
AutoCAD drafting. It's an industry, to be honest with you, I didn't even know existed until I got the job.
Sure. Were you designing like implements for like vehicles or tractors, or were you designing structures?
It's a real estate thing. So you draw the outlines of lots and so on and so forth, like property. And it's a very sort of like hole in the wall niche thing. It's small. It's very, very small. Even if it did put all of its competitors out of business, very successful. But at the end of the day, it's not the highest paying job in the world, and I don't complain about it really. It's it's honest work.
Is that what you still do then?
Yeah, I'm a working stiff. I work every day.
Okay, well, I just didn't know where on the timeline we were. How old are you? Because you talk about the 80s.
I was born in 84. I'm 37 years old.
Oh, okay. You're just a young pup. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. You haven't seen the harshness of the world that I have. Got it.
No, I mean, like, I saw people burning garbage and trash cans on university for heat. I watched, I've watched happy college kids play baseball while I was dirt poor living in a multi-unit rental property. I used to sit on the deck and watch my cat leap off of the railing and grab birds in her mouth at mid-flight and land on the trellis they have their nests in. And then she'd go in the house and spit the bird in my dad's lap and be like, "Praise me." So, I mean, it's been a heck of a life. I'm a really like quiet, unimportant person. I have mostly just been an unknown, and I'm more than happy with that.
Okay, so I've got two more critical questions. What's supposed to be on the hooks directly behind you that isn't there?
Well,
is that where you like hang the skins of your enemies, or is that where you hang a shotgun? Like, what is it?
Well, funny enough, everybody, like, I've actually had somebody on Twitter ask me if I get hard when I clean and oil my AR-15.
Well, do you?
I actually don't really. So,
okay. Good. Like if you got an erection while cleaning a gun, we would have questions for you.
No, of course not. No. Well, so and when that person asked that, I thought to myself, oh, they're not a gun person. I know that right away because nobody cleans their AR-15s. They literally run them until they fail, and then they wipe some things off and put them back together again.
Just buy a new one.
Yes. Well, no, like there's memes. There's memes where it's like some British chimney sweep just covered in filth, and it says my carry piece watching me clean my range toys. Like that's because like you never clean the stuff you use because you buy stuff that's so good you got to clean it all the time. But anyway, my ideal rifle, which is the one that usually sits on those hooks, is a Kel-Tec RDB. It is a bullpup designed rifle. So it's not an AR pattern rifle. It's very compact. It's very nice. And my setup's very simple. It's a light and an optic. And I do shoot regularly because I believe that if you don't train your skill, you're going to lose your skill. So, all that fun stuff. But yeah.
Okay. And then the other question is, what's up with the Hawaiian shirt?
I like Hawaiian shirts.
Really?
Like they're really cool, actually. Big fan of Hawaiians. They also function as a cover garment because you have a permit to carry. You don't want it sticking out all the time. But I mean, if you like carrying full frames, I prefer to carry full frames. They tend to print really bad, so a Hawaiian shirt can cover that up very easily. You're making a boogaloo joke, aren't you?
I'm not making any jokes.
Oh, come on. Just admit it.
I'm just
admit
asking
it's okay.
because you have a Hawaiian shirt hanging on the wall prominently. It's lit. You have a fucking lamp lighting it, okay?
Well, like, no, actually, that lamp is next to my couch. So there's a reason that lamp there besides the shirt. But no, I don't know if I could share that like on screen or whatever, but I have a contact request that some wild person threw into my website who is a self-described boogaloo individual who wanted to send me a message telling me that if I wanted to vote with bullets, I'm a Tory and I'm not actually and I'm just like, dude, you're using like British political alignment terms to describe American issues, and in all honesty, I'm one of the dudes that shows up at like protests and stuff like that, and I do go to gun rallies because I like gun rights, and I like making sure that people know that people care about that. That's important. I'm a firm believer, if you don't use your rights, you lose them.
I want you to know that if you want to share something on screen, we're in StreamYard. You have the ability to do that. At the bottom of your screen, there's a little toolbar and it says share. Like you can share your schizo messages from people if you want. You don't have to.
No, I don't mind. Oh, well, I didn't know that. Hold on. Let me get the. So I'll post up the one that I have to put it someplace where I can get to it on my PC because this is on my PC. Yeah. My phone, so I have to go find that.
Okay, give me just a second. I'm gonna run and go to the bathroom, but I'll be back in like 45 seconds.
Let's go.
Because I'm a quick pee. I'm a quick pee. I'll be right back.
Solid.
Okay, let me get these headphones back in here.
Let's
It's a
go.
disaster.
Oh shit! I didn't get the whole thing there. Hold on a second. Let me. I suppose we can.
All right.
So one of these, yeah, one of these you're gonna love because it's actually from a corporate website. So somebody at the SallyCohen.com employment circle sent a veiled threat via my website, which is hilarious, by the way. Let's see here. I'm just screen capping.
What the hell is SallyCohen.com?
Sally Cohen is some like leftist commentator, has a book called The Opposite of Hate. Very, very, very ironic.
Sally Cohen, The Opposite of Hate. This. Field guide to what? Reparations? Oh, Sally Kohn. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to. Oh God! Oh! Sorry. I saw pictures of Sally Cohen. Oh Jesus! What happened to people? Oh, it's a lawyer. Ew! Even worse. Education, NYU School of Law, George Washington University, NYU Wagner Moravian Academy Upper School. Oh, fucking hell! These people. I went to a private preparatory academy, and then I went to undergraduate, and then I went into law school. Oh, find a gun. Don't actually do that. I shouldn't be saying that. Very rude of me. God, she's ugly though. Let me read while you look through that stuff. Let me read some super chats. Speaking of chats, by the way, this has nothing to do with chats at all, but to the chat, I think after the show tonight, I'll probably be popping on locals because my friend Steven here has inspired me to smoke a cigar tonight. And I realized that I'm running out of days because Minnesota is a communist shithole. But not only is it a communist shithole, it is also so damn cold. And I only smoke cigars outside, and I certainly, like all winter, I don't smoke cigars because I'm not going to sit out in fucking negative 25 degrees smoking a cigar like a weirdo. But I will probably smoke a cigar tonight. I'm also hungry, and I've got 4 flank steaks to throw on the grill, and I'm going to cook 4 flat iron steaks. I'm going to cook 4 flat iron steaks and probably eat 3 of them because I'm fat. Real Hydro PX says, how fat is Yellow Flash in real life? Fatter than you think. That's the answer. Lucas says running behind and taking it from behind as usual. Hey, I was not. Timothy Reaper says, I'm taking some vocational classes, so I might not be able to catch live shows most nights now. I'll catch the replays and drop in live sometimes. Could I get a fat and lazy shaming and Trump voice to keep me motivated? Timothy Reaper, I don't even know how to say your name. It doesn't really matter. Timothy, I've seen you. Kind of embarrassing. Not a good specimen. I've seen lots of people's, lots of body shapes, all of them better than yours. All of them, frankly. You're terrible. You need to get off of your rather gargantuan backside, posterior, some people call it. I have good words. I use good words. Posterior is a better word than buttock. But you need to get off of that posterior and start walking. Walk, and honestly, just don't stop, especially at a restaurant. I know that's hard for you, but don't stop. Just keep going. Keep walking. Walk in a straight line until you get back to your house. And then maybe at that point, you'll be reasonable. And you'll have smaller body than Marco Rubio's hands. Cynthia says, happy birthday to Zeno. She's a fellow libtard who also loves your content for some deranged reason. What's wrong with us? Raise a glass, Ricada, please, and thank you. Well, Cynthia and Zeno, of course I will. As you know, I love my liberal audience because you people add spice to my day. Here we go.
Okay, let's download this one. Let's start the party off right.
What are you downloading? Like, is the CIA right now sending you made up tweets in real time? Like, what's going on?
I'm out. Yeah.
Just kidding.
I mean, it's a reasonable question. Not mad at that.
I mean, my Fed contacts send me stuff all the time, so I'm just asking.
I mean, hey, who's mad at that, right?
I do want to know what your opinion of the GOP is in Minnesota, like the typical, like the GOP that has existed. Because okay, the GOP accidentally did something great the other day. Like you heard about this, right? When they accidentally legalized edibles because they were dumb. Did you see that?
I did see that.
So what do you think about that? Like, do we give them credit for doing something right, or do we mock them for being stupid? Like, what do you do?
Well, okay, so like normally I would be like, yeah, give him credit for doing something right. But the dude keeps saying we gotta fix it, like, you know. And I guess like at the end of the day, if you're doing what the people want and you're gonna claim you gotta fix it because it was a mistake, you're not being a very good representative. And I know the GOP is terrified of legalizing substances, but I think that I think that was an enormous mistake made during, I don't know, maybe the Nixon or Reagan years, that we needed to get into people's lives. Honestly, we've been screwing around with this since Prohibition. Prohibition should have been the first and last. That should have been the beginning and the end. It created the largest organized crime wave in American history, created by your government. I don't know, maybe on purpose. I have no idea. Like, that was incredibly stupid. It was incredibly stupid. It turned a whole bunch of normal, everyday American citizens into criminals, just like they're trying to do with guns in recent days. And it was not a banger. In fact, it was quite the opposite of a banger. In fact, it was so opposite. People were like, screw it. Organized criminals are actually kind of sexy. And that's why we have a whole bunch of relatively entertaining media about organized crime where they're not always portrayed as the bad guys.
Well, they had to come up with a system that would generate problems for guns so they could go after guns. Like, that's why Prohibition occurred, right? Like, well, we create organized crime and then they use guns, then we can go after guns with the NFA and the National Firearms Act, and then we can just go ahead and infringe the Second Amendment and screw us all over with US v. Miller. But real quick,
US v. Miller.
I have to go ahead and do this toast to Zeno and to Cynthia, two of my favorite liberal viewers who are here every single night. I don't know why you watch, but I love that you do. And despite everything I've ever said in my entire life, I love liberals. I love conservatives and I love liberals. I love everybody. I just like talking to people and I like ideas that challenge my own. Maybe you two could come up with sometime. That would be helpful. But thanks for being here, of course, and putting up with all the abuse that you definitely deserve. Cheers to you. And Zeno, happy birthday. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
Okay, so let's share some death threats. All right, here we go.
Yeah, hit me with your death threats, like Pat Benatar or whatever. Here we go. Okay, you got to zoom in on that. I can't see that at all.
Oh shit! Sorry, hold on. Let me. Is there
if you have a scroll wheel on your mouse.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Okay, so it says there's a bullet for you and your children. Oh my gosh! Then he dropped an F slur. Wow, you will be executed.
There's the noble DFL for you in the state of Minnesota.
What's this guy's name?
I don't know. I caller ID'd the number out of Pine.
Oh shit! They texted you.
They texted me. Yeah, it was before I took my private phone number off of my my Senate Facebook page, of course. Because
he dropped a non-anonymous faggot there. That's amazing. Like, you can't do that anymore. You can't say that word. I can only say it because I'm quoting that guy. That guy's very offensive.
Of course.
Were you more offended by the F slur or him calling you a pussy? Which one was worse?
Actually, I really don't care about either of those. I was perfectly fine with pretty much all of it. In fact, if you would have just said or she or it or however it self-identifies, if it was just the bottom three lines, I would have been like, all right, like, come get it. I have a really fast draw to fire time, so I'm not as concerned about these kinds of things. And I mean, I do carry every day. I do exercise my Second Amendment right, and obviously, I have insurance for this. So, it is what it is. If somebody wants to come and try to kill me, I guess maybe that's part of like being in politics. The left will just send people to try to kill you, I guess. I don't know. So like this is apparently a thing. And my biggest issue is apparently this person is okay with killing children. Now, that's a whole different ballgame. Like adults, they pick the wars they fight. They pick the situations they put themselves into. Adults are adults. Children, on the other hand, children don't deserve that. Children don't deserve that. That's disgusting. If you want to shoot children, you are an extra special kind of monster.
Now, since I know literally nothing about you, do you have kids? Do you have a wife? Like, do you have a family? Like, you don't have to get into too detailed, but like,
no. I mean, the missus is sleeping because she has a pretty early cycle for work, and my son, Liam,
go to sleep.
Oh, it's summer, man. Are you kidding me? This kid's like, well, I don't need to be, awake during normal times.
How? Oh my goodness.
He must be really into a game or something like that. He's not paying attention. But I do have a son. He's 16. He is, he is wonderful. He is absolutely not white at all. In fact, one of my favorite phrases to tell people on the internet when they call me racist is, "My son is half Mexican, and you're an entire idiot." Because I wasn't really even interested in people in my particular race when I was a kid. I really liked Latin girls. I was really into it. And his mom I was really into, and we were in high school, and we got married, and we had a kid, and for a few years it was great. Unfortunately, these things don't always work out, and her and I get along very well these days.
Sure.
My son lives with me. He lives with me, funny enough, not because I could afford the incredibly titanic and expensive custody battle, but because a man was executed right next door to his mom's place of living. And not just executed in the usual funny, I had a gunfight kind of way. He was executed because there was a, what are they called? The Gangster Disciples, the GDs. There's a GD chapter for St. Paul, and there's a GD chapter in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And they were having a war because the GD chapter in St. Paul, the dude who apparently lived in that house, I didn't know he was a GD. I just talked to him a couple times. He seemed like a really cool dude. I hope he wasn't the guy that got shot.
Cool, super cool.
Well, I mean, like, maybe not all of them, but like, I mean, like the dude, I'm serious. Well, I mean, I dropped my kid off there like for years because that's where his mom lived. And every now and then I'd run into the guy. He was a really cool dude. He was like, "Hey, man, that's love." Because every time I drop my kid off, like I give him a big hug, tell him I love him, tell him like, hey, text me if you're worried about anything. Like, I love you. Get a hold of me, right? Well, he saw that and he was like, "Man, I love my kid just like that." And I was like, "Yo, you're a good dude. Like, what's your name?" And we talked and we had a great conversation. Awesome dude. He's the dude I would defend without question. I don't know if he sells drugs. I hope he sells drugs that don't hurt people. Like that's how it is. But like, whatever. I found out that like there was an execution there. Apparently, the GDs in Minneapolis, because of some internet beef, I kid you not, sent 4 soldiers to shoot up the entire front of this guy's crib. And then they went in, kicked in the door, walked in the living room, dropped 4 shots into his chest, didn't touch anybody else in the house, right in his living room, and then got back in the car, drove off. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, this was like 60 feet from my kid's window.
Yeah.
They shot up the funeral.
Oh, come on now.
I didn't even know that was like a GD thing. I didn't even know that they were like, "Yo, we get the funerals too." Apparently, I don't like that's
it's just rude.
So insane, right? Like it's so insane. That was just wild. And I told his mom, I was like, I can't, you can't live there anymore. And she was like, "No, I know, that's fair." And we agreed. And she was like, "No, it's not safe here." And it's unfortunate we couldn't get we couldn't get her mom to sell the house. So her mom still lives there. Wild. I don't know how she reconciles that, but I hope she's okay. A number of people sold their houses right across the street too. And it's sad because like her family had owned that house for a very long time. That's not that's not a fresh acquisition. Like that's their neighborhood home. And so I understand.
I mean, especially like St. Paul. St. Paul went through a massive transition from a really nice metropolitan area into kind of a really terrifying place, especially if it's anywhere near, like you mentioned, you grew up around Frogtown. I don't know where it is, but if it's over like near Robert Street or as my buddy Drex says, anything named after an activist like Cesar Chavez Boulevard or whatever, can't trust any of that shit. Those places are all horrifying.
No, but funny you mentioned that. In the riots, okay, so like during the riots, the George Floyd riots, I was listening to lots of police radio. I was listening to St. Paul radio one night, right?
Yeah.
And St. Paul radio, because St. Paul doesn't encrypt their police comms, so the average citizen can listen in. And so I was listening to that. I was like, oh, what's going on? So because I knew that's where my son lived. So I was like, well, I want to know what's going on in West St. Paul. I'm going to listen to the St. Paul comms, make sure my kid's okay, right? So I'm listening, and they're like, we're passing, I kid you not, we're passing the taco house, about a dozen males, ARs slung, non-threatening, just protecting innocence. Like, that neighborhood does not screw around.
No,
You ain't burning nothing down in that hood. Like, those dudes are like, nah, you ain't coming here with that garbage. And to me, I'm like, whoo, awesome. That is your house. Protect it, and don't let anyone into it. That's awesome. It made me feel a lot better, because, like, I mean, hey, police can do great stuff. Everywhere there is a crime, there is a citizen. Everywhere there's a crime, there's a citizen. So if the citizens have the ability to defend themselves and they don't have to worry about the government prosecuting them, that pretty much puts an end to most violent crime just on its face. Because then if you want to commit violent crime, you know that the citizens you're committing it on, they're prepared to receive you. And that increases the cost of doing business to the point where maybe robbing people doesn't seem so smart anymore. I don't hear about people getting robbed by Bill's Gun Shop in Robbinsdale. I hear about plenty of people getting robbed just down the street. But don't nobody go around Bill's in Robbinsdale like, hey, I'm going to stick somebody up because guns are worth a lot of money. Are you joking? Like, most people are like, nope, not screwing around there. So, you know, that's kind of the bit. Frogtown, by the way, is a stretch of university from pretty much just outside the Capitol all the way down to like just past Snelling. That's Frogtown.
It's heavy Hmong population, right?
Some Hmong. It's a majority minority area, and there was a lot of investment. There's a lot of city investment in the area. It went from being very bleak to very pretty. So when I was a kid, it was a very bleak area. Things were very run down, and now they're much prettier. But it doesn't appear that a whole lot further development or investment was done, because the place is still very somewhat unstable, we'll say. I haven't lived around there in a while, so I'm not going to talk about things I don't know anything about. But from what I've seen as I've driven through, and from what people I know who are around the area have said, it hasn't gotten a ton better, but it does look better. So there's that.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't hang around any of those places. I grew up. I went to high school in Lakeville, and then after college, I moved out to. Well, we lived in the Twin Cities. We lived in Lakeville for about 5 years, and then I worked at Thrivent in downtown Minneapolis. So it was like I would just drive. I just drive to Burnsville, and then I'd take the bus or I'd carpool with my brother-in-law to Thrivent, and then I go home. But then now we live in Spicer, or well, just outside of Spicer, Minnesota, in the middle of nowhere, which is great. It's the greatest place on earth, except for the fucking taxes. So wait, what are you going to do to my tax? Like, can we get rid of the state income tax? What do I have to do? Whose dick do I have to suck to get rid of state income taxes? Because it costs me a goddamn annual salary every year to live in this state. And I don't I'm telling my wife, I'm like, do you want a new car? Because I could just buy a car if I didn't have to pay taxes.
I am admittedly a taxation and theft kind of guy. So like anything that reduces or eliminates taxes, it's an automatic yes vote for me. I like, at the end of the day, I believe that you, the American citizen, know far more about what you should do with your money than me, quote unquote, the government. The government doesn't know what the hell you should do with your money. The government thinks they know. They take a bunch of input. They come up with a new bureaucracy that costs you 3 times as much, and they produce a quarter of the output. It's stupid. So the vast majority of the case, the government needs to exist on its own merits, and it should not shackle the everyday citizen to a payment plan that doesn't produce value.
Okay, so how should the government fund itself? What is the ideal method for that? Like, assuming you don't have an income tax, because income tax is theft. So how do we do it?
So the usual answer to that is essentially some tax on trade. So tax on trade, because of course the government produces, ideally, once again, we have a lot of things to fix to make this work, right? But we'll go perfect world. We'll go like in a perfect world. In a perfect world, the state would produce a stable environment in which you, the merchant, can ply and sell your trade or your product or whatever. And from that stability, say things like sales tax or what have you, produce a significant amount of revenue that can then also fund the state, as well as things like, oh man, I'm not an economist, to be fair with you. So like, maybe there's more research to be done on that particular topic, but I think there's ways to do it that don't involve a direct income tax. I don't necessarily think I like property taxes so much, but I'm negotiable.
I hate the idea of paying for what I already owe.
Exactly. Like if you own it, you own it. Like in my opinion, that's kind of the end of it. And personally, I don't actually think government should be that heavily of a funded enterprise. I really don't. I think the state should be something that's so small you can drown it in a bathtub. And like really, like the average citizen knows far better what to do with their money. Corporations get a really weird scenario these days because they can essentially be clocked as a human being, which I don't think is legitimate in law personally, because a corporation isn't a human being. It's a group of human beings that exist purely off of the basis of rational self-interest. And I personally disagree with that. I think that's inexcusable, and making a corporation a human being under law is kind of disgusting. And I say that mostly because as a human being myself, I am subject to other human beings, and I take risks when I make certain decisions around them. A corporation experiences almost none of those circumstances. They're a board of individuals who have other individuals under them that will eventually interact with the market somewhere. But that's it. And when you have that much removal from like the point of action, the point of contact, the degree of moral interest or moral concern is incredibly low. And that was illustrated by the Milgram experiments, which were a very simple example of using, say, simple verbal authority and a removal of contact. You're not doing it to a person, you're pressing a button that's doing it to a person.
Right.
And the person who's telling you won't arrest you, they're just going to keep telling you. That's it. But like 70 to 80% were willing to press the button until they weren't sure if the person was alive. Because removal from that point of contact reduces the value of moral suspicion. So like you stop, like the second you get removed, it's like I almost want to call it like the law of moral proxemics. If you're too far from a moral equation, or really any equation, any transaction, you reduce your value in that transaction because you're not next to it. You're too far from it. Maybe it doesn't involve your money. Maybe it doesn't involve your goodwill. And so as far as like the state is concerned, I think we could probably completely get rid of the income tax. I'm okay with that. Like if there's enough support. I mean, once again, if I'm like when elected, I will be a lone senator. I don't have the power to just do that, but I'm more than happy to make the argument. And the more I have the time to learn about things like how various different maybe experimental economists have discussed the topic of completely, completely removing the completion of taxation from the individual, like every version of it, pulling it.
But you don't need an experimental economist. There are several states that function perfectly without a state income tax. Texas, Florida, Nevada, right. Tennessee, I think. Like these states do not need a state income tax to function because they can just get whatever they need through sales and property taxes and, of course, transportation taxes on gasoline. But those taxes are actually competitive with states like ours. Ours is just a fucking commie hellhole. How do we never mind. I won't say that. Okay, here's what we got to do. It's getting late. I'm enjoying talking to you very much, but what I need to do is I need to read a whole bunch of super chats and then I need to go eat some steaks. So I'm going to give you a minute here to do kind of a final pitch. And then I think what I'll do is I'll kick your ass off of my stream and then I'll finish up with super chats and stuff like that. But is there anything kind of like summarizing everything that you want to say before we go?
Sure. So the 10,000 foot view is this. I'm okay with reducing as much taxation as humanly possible while still maintaining the government's function. I think that the average private citizen knows exactly what to do with their life. The government doesn't need to tell them what to do. The market is incredible at solving its own needs, and the more you get in the way of it, the more you give it excuses to do incredibly immoral things. If people follow if corporations follow all of their regulations, they immediately get some level of indemnity against wrongdoing. Because even if they kill your children with poisons, if they can show that they followed all the regulations, what are you going to say? They were out of spec? I don't know. They did everything the government asked of them. What do you sue them for?
Right.
The government said, do these things and you're safe. So they did. And it still caused harm. At the end of the day, the government shouldn't be writing regulations. The government should be making sure that citizens who can't afford it get the necessary representation in law if they have a legitimate case to make sure that make sure that corporations that make poor products actually get sued the way they ought to, and not the average poor citizen getting completely screwed. And then, well, I can't afford a power lawyer, I'm done. So there needs to be a solution along those lines to make sure people get the representation they need, and corporations can't run roughshod over the average American and just do whatever they want. And at the end of the day, if you can't sell a product, if it's a dangerous product, whatever the case is, you should be sued for it. That's normal. That's part of the average contract law. That's part of markets. I want the government out of your life. I want the government so far out of your life you don't care about elections because they don't affect you. I want you to be so unworried about the government, you blithely read the papers and it isn't really that big of a concern to you. Granted, everybody right now, because things are so dangerous, should vote and vote often. Until we can get that all righted, everybody should be focused on exactly how their states function, because the local elections matter. They matter more than you think. And so you don't want people that are interested in taking your money, that are interested in writing new laws that are going to put you in a box. They're interested in giving the police new excuses to come bother you, because I promise you, every law written on a sheet of paper is a good reason for a cop to pull you over or stop you whilst you're walking and be 100% lawfully justified in their behavior, no matter how that turns out for you. So you need to elect people like me who are going to say, no, the state doesn't belong there. They don't get to harass you. They don't get to kick in your door. They don't get to take your liberties without due process. And they will absolutely stop at the liberties and the rights of the U.S. citizen, unalienable or otherwise. Those are the kind of people you need to elect. You need to elect people who will stand up for you, the private citizen, who don't want guns at your doorstep, who don't want badges behind those guns that make any of their firings legitimate under any circumstances. I am that guy. I am that guy that stands at the podium and says, no, you will not shove guns in private citizens' faces for trivial purposes under any circumstances. And once again, if you don't trust these processes, countries become very dangerous. So you have to find a way to bring faith back to these processes. Go vote. And if you vote in the largest possible numbers, even mistakes, even impropriety is hard to hide. If you believe elections are unsafe or unfair, you should vote as much as you possibly can, because the more you vote, the more it's obvious. If you believe that the elections are not properly tabulated, get involved. Be an election judge. Stand up for your rights if that's what concerns you. Support investigations and investigate until you're comfortable. Because at the end of the day, the average American deserves to know, deserves to believe that the votes they cast matter. The second we stop believing those votes matter is the second we become a third world nation, and we're just going to devolve into violence anyway. And not violence from me, by the way. That's not my goal or my end. That's what the crazies will do.
Are you sure it's not your violence?
Stop that.
I'm kidding.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You look at these banana republics, and it's incredibly dangerous. And that's why people flock in lines to this country. This country, like the belief that you can be represented here, is so out of the norm for other countries. The line is so long, people would rather immigrate illegally because the line is so long. That's how important this is. It's so important the rest of the world is lining up to be here. So please, bring back the faith. Elect people that will get between the government and your life and take that bullet for you. I am here to take bullets for you, the average citizen, the average Minnesotan, to make sure that the state doesn't stack up at your door. I am happy to be in front of that door and say, no, you ain't stacking up here. Go back to the station house.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was Stephen Lowell. Let me ask, I've got one question for you. One parting question. And this is from the chat. This is from Rumble. Rumble username suck says Ricada Lowell 2024. Consider this my first campaign contribution. I have an important question on your platforms, though. Balls or no balls?
Balls.
So your balls gang.
Balls, 100%. I don't even know what that means, but yeah, let's go with it.
It's the correct answer. So I applaud you for picking it. Thank goodness. I mean, do you want to know? I mean, I don't want to like ruin your life or anything, but do you want to know what you just signed up for?
Sure. I mean, like, you should ask questions, so I'll go ahead and be the change I want to see.
Are you a fan of anime at all? Have you ever watched a Japanese cartoon?
Oh yeah, like Akira, classic. Cowboy Bebop, very inspired. What's another good one? Neon Genesis Evangelion is pretty decent. The dude who wrote it went to some dark places.
Yeah,
but
guys,
very aesthetic.
Okay, so now in an anime, since you have like some basis of knowledge, I'll try and relate these in relatable terms. So you got like Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop, right?
Yeah.
But imagine that Faye Valentine has a giant penis. You just answered that penis should have balls attached to it, which I agree with you. I'm 100% in your corner on this, but I just wanted to let you know what the balls or no balls question is. If you have a female character who at will can have a giant throbbing penis, like they do, that should they have balls or not is the question.
Well, I feel like it's kind of awkward if they don't, right? Like,
right.
So,
that looks like Shaft obsession to me, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Right, exactly. I guess like at the end of the day, like, I mean, what can I say? I'm a slave to anatomy. Like, if one's there, the other should be there. If it's not there, it just looks like some weird tentacle thing, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So thank you for entertaining that ridiculous question. It's part of the initiation process here on the channel. Dude, I'm really like, I know that the DFL has misrepresented you or whatever, and people are shitting on you. No one should ever like make threats against your family and all of those people. Everybody who's made a threat against you should have a hatchet first, hit them in the vagina and then in the face, and they should die from it. I hate people who resort to violence over political disagreement. It's not. Same. It's never proper to resort to violence over political disagreement. There are times when violent political action needs to take place. We saw it in 1776, right? We saw the American Revolution. When representation is gone and you're under tyranny, sometimes you have to do something. We're not talking about that there. We're talking about you said something that was just basic bog standard. If we don't vote, people will resort to violence, and we don't want violence. And people are like, he wants violence. That's stupid. And then people threatening you and your family is nonsense. That is never acceptable. Those people should choke on gonorrhea or whatever. But with that said, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the candor and everything. I think we need more people like you running for office, and I know that like the GOP is being a bunch of bitches right now, but I hope they get over it come election season, recognize who they endorsed, and actually fight for your district, because we need GOP senators. And we need guys who believe in freedom and a reduction of taxation, an expansion of gun rights, and a removal of this nonsensical war on drugs, at least at the basic levels of weed can be legal now. We're almost there as a state. Like we're so close. Oh, yeah. But you've got holdouts. Like one of my friends, a guy named Tim Miller, is one of the holdouts. He's a congressman, legislator in from near here, and he's a good guy, but I've talked to him so many times, like, I'll never vote for weed legalization. I'm like, you need to lose then. Like, you have to start embracing this. You have to embrace the freedom side of republicanism, and remember that the GOP is the small government party.
Maybe this is crossing a line, and you're welcome to tell me if it is, and I'm okay with that.
There's basically no line.
Does he have an argument, or is it mostly just like Stonewall? Like
unfortunately, his argument is literally based on like 1980s propaganda. Shit like reefer madness and stuff like that. Well, I've seen what weed can do to people. It's like, but bro, like anything can do that to people. I've seen MMO games like EverQuest. Fuck, if I didn't quit playing EverQuest in college, I would not have graduated. Like legitimately, like World of Warcraft can destroy lives if people are retarded enough. You got to stop saying this can be bad. Everything can be bad. Like you might read a book by Sam Harris. Don't do it. It's terrible. Reading is disgusting.
You heard what we might do to people. Like, have you heard of WoW?
It's like legitimately like, oh, wait. So that guy will just sit on his couch bored his entire life and eat Cheetos? Oh, at least that's all he's doing. Like, have you heard of hentai addiction? These guys are jerking off until their dicks fall off. Don't do that. I'd rather you sit around smoking weed. Like,
oh my God.
There's legitimate harm that comes from addictions all over the place. That's not the government's job. It never has been.
I mean, that is a pantheon of fair points. Wow.
I have nothing but fair points.
We need to make like
Put
a
me on the
mock
floor
trial or
of
something.
Congress. I will give me 20 minutes and I will red pill all of these silly little proper laced politicucks that are up on at the Capitol Hill in Minnesota.
Screw debating my opponent. I'll debate you. It'll be way more entertaining. It'll be like the most entertaining thing you've ever heard. With the dumbest, most replete arguments no one wanted to hear. But yeah, no, it's perfect. It's amazing. That is spectacular. Like, listen, if you ever want to peer pressure this guy, feel free. Like, invite him onto your stream and then just send me a text. Be like, yo, I'm peer pressuring the senator. Call me. And I'm happy. I don't mind.
I love ruining Republicans. Like there's one out here, Dave Baker, and I teach at our homeschool co-op, and I got my entire class. I teach the Constitution. So these poor kids get to learn the Constitution from me. So I teach these kids, and you've mentioned some like Randian ideas out there, but I got these kids to read Anthem, and then we were trolling Dave Baker because he was trying to preserve this shitty power plant that ran off of turkey manure. What is that? Hold on, I'm gonna make you bigger. Oh, the Constitution. Okay, there you go. Yeah, nice, very good. Oh shit, I didn't want that.
It's all of the Federalist Papers and a whole bunch of really other great writings.
Yeah, no,
really great book. Big fan. Love the golden gilding. It's great tab.
So this Dave Baker guy, he was like really proud that he was preserving this power plant. XL Energy wanted to buy back a power plant that ran off of turkey manure, which I don't know if you know this, but turkey manure is really inefficient. It's also super dirty and disgusting. XL Energy wanted to convert it back to like a natural gas plant, one that works. And he's like, but what about the 30 workers there? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe XL could like you're negotiating with them. Maybe you could just enter into an agreement where they would train these guys on how to run natural gas power plants. And so I got all these kids to spam every time he showed up anywhere. Like one of them was a waiter in a restaurant that he went to locally. And every time he'd come in, he'd be like, have you read Anthem yet? Because in Anthem, the guy discovers electricity. He rediscovers electricity in this communist shithole. And he brings it to the board of ingenuity. And he's like, can we do this? Can we make these light bulb things? Like imagine the work we can do. And they're like, but what about the candle makers? We just spent 5 years transitioning the torch makers to the candle makers. And what are the candle makers going to do? If you do this, it'll put them out of business. And that was literally Dave Baker's argument on the turkey manure plant. He's like, well, there's like 30 jobs and these guys won't know what to do with their lives. I'm like, oh my God, these skilled laborers can't possibly learn something else. You're negotiating with a multi-billion-dollar gas company. I don't know, maybe just include a provision that says, by the way, you have to retrain and retain the 30 workers when you refit this plant into a natural gas plant. It's the easiest solution on the goddamn planet, and this guy couldn't figure it out. I hate these people. I want them all to catch fire in their pants until they learn about freedom, about free markets, and about how to leverage. Like, when you have government resources that private companies want, at least leverage those into making the private companies do the thing that is good for the people. And it's really simple. Like, if you're trying to save jobs, just say, by the way, you have to save these jobs and make them workable. It's a minor investment for XL Energy to figure out how to turn these guys from burning turkey shit into burning gas. And this guy couldn't figure it out. These are the people representing me, man. What do I have to do?
Right. No, and like honestly, the beginning of my journey was looking at the people. I was like, okay, so this all sucks. Like, things I'm seeing, buildings burning, violence, whatever. Like, this sucks. Who's representing me? And I look at these people like, dude, these people have nothing in common with me. Like,
Yeah.
the guy I'm running against is a 70-year-old millionaire. He does not represent anyone. Like, there's like 3 people in my district that dude might represent. Maybe. Like, that's not actual representation. That he has no idea how the average person in his district lives. And that's the same issue that you're looking at. Because at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. Like, people, like the market is every human desire. Every single one. Not just 1, 2, 3, 5, the whole thing. It's the whole thing and the fulfillment of that thing. The market has infinite versatility. If you're like, so people freak out about like, oh no, automation. These people will be hired as techs. Someone has to teach the robots. Someone has to do it. Like, you're not going to have like, what if you think one nerd in a chair is going to train every single robot in their novel experiences? You're lying to yourself. You're going to need people on each one of those routes to teach those like whatever robotic trucks or robotic workers of a given kind. Like, someone's going to have to train them, and then someone's going to have to maintain them. Everybody evolves. That's the way this works. Like, people figure out a new thing to do.
Yep. Well,
like,
you always need labor. That at the end of the day, we always need labor.
If you are capable of what's described as skilled labor, you will never be out of work. I promise you. Whether it's labor, whether it's skilled labor you went to school for, or it's skilled labor in a number of different professions, the one I'm in, by the way, where there is no college course for it. You have to find a company that does it, and they will dump 6 months of revenue into you to train you so you are proficient. Like, that's how this all works. And so, like, the idea that you just can't do that, it's absurd. It's absurd. I don't know how in the hell anybody keeps an office saying and doing things like that, because they're basically just telling you like, yeah, listen, there's just no way because work is hard and life is wild. I don't know. Anyway, stop talking to me.
All right, man. Speaking of stop talking to me, get the hell off my show. In the
I'm on it.
I'm just kidding. But all right, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I need to read through super chats and wrap up the show, of course, because we're already at 2 hours and 45 minutes in. I do appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast getting to know you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, this is honestly, I'm kind of in a daze. It's like you've got a great thing you've built here. And well, honestly, I feel privileged to be a part of it. So I appreciate you. I mean, like, awesome. And if you ever want me back for any reason, good or bad, whatever, hit me up. I'm always happy to be here.
Sounds good, buddy. And I genuinely hope the election goes well for you. I hope the GOP gets over the little hiccup of the literal non-starter of your speech. Your speech was, I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying, like, it was very non-confrontational, and the fact that it got taken out of context, bullshit. So
agreed. I will send you a copy of the Newsweek clip, which is really funny because I shit on Newsweek all the time, and I'm willing to admit it. God bless you, Newsweek. You did a good one. I appreciate you. I don't know if you've got a tracker watching this shit or something. You guys did great. The cut they posted to me was fantastic. It was way better than the one you played. I will text it to you on whatever, and that way you can watch it. It's worth the watch. It's better.
All right, man. Well, you have a good night, and I'm gonna finish these super chats and get off myself.
Copy that, brother. Thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure.
All right, buddy. Peace.
Peace.
Okay, guys, that was Stephen Lowell. He's a Minnesota candidate for the state Senate. He I think if you Google or if you do like a word find in the chat for Fed, you'd get the top result of anything said. But he seemed like a good guy to me, and I hope nothing but the best for him. Most importantly, of course, I hope for safety for him and his family. The fact that people will take a clip out of context and decide that someone should be murdered for their words is emblematic of where we are right now. Words are everything. The wrong words mean you lose everything. And that's crazy, but that's how fucking ridiculous our world is right now. With that, we're going to read a lot of super chats here. And then we're going to go. I was hoping to do some Twitch tonight, but man, he was smoking that cigar and I'm really, really hungry. So I think that's what it's going to be. Real quick housekeeping stuff. I will probably not be on Flashcast much, if at all, tomorrow night. It kind of depends on how the night goes. But one of my law school homies has successfully overcome cancer. And so all our little like friend group is getting together tomorrow, which will lead to nothing but degenerate levels of alcohol consumption and good conversation. But it starts kind of early in the day. So I legitimately don't know like how late it will go. I may be on Flashcast. I may not. If I'm not, it's because of that. Other than that, next week, we've got Lucas Gerhard, I think on the 22nd. I'm just trying to nail down the specific time, if it's going to be at the nighttime show or if it's going to be an evening show. Sometime next week, I will be on Good Logic's show. He will also be on my show. And I think we've got some other people who might be popping on as guests. I am looking to bring on, I saw someone complaining like first week back and Nick doesn't bring on any guests. Well, yeah, I know. No, my first week back, I did now, but I just got back. I am looking to book some guests and have people come on and have some good conversations with some people about stuff. I'd love to talk to Razor Fist. I know he's doing an Abraham Lincoln video sometime soon. I just kind of talked about Lincoln a little bit the other day, but there's a whole bunch of people I want to talk to. And so some guests are coming, and hopefully while they're here, they'll be coming as well. But thank you for hanging out. And we'll, I do owe 2 unbreadeds. Shit. We'll do that in a minute. Kyle Bogue, your cough is my fault. I've been bored and been turning on the Curtis Reeves trial to fall asleep to at night, and I think that effing judge infected you somehow. Sorry about that. I'll pay you back with that round of golf. Laser Doctor, can I get a toast for my father that passed a year ago? 8/16/21. Thanks, Nick. He was the greatest man I know. Yes. Yes, you can. Icon, I have not gotten your purchase of Star Sector yet because I haven't opened Steam at all. But I will. How about your number 1 case victim? I don't know what that means. Here we go. To Laser Doctor, to his father who passed away a year ago. The greatest man you know. And that is, of course, the goal of every father on earth that cares about their children, to be the greatest man that their children know, to be the model, to be the child your sons want to emulate. Not the child, to be the man your sons want to emulate, to be the man that is a model for your daughters to pick partners. That's the goal of every father. And I pray that every father will live up to that goal, even though some of us will fall short. It sounds like Laser Doctor's father is a man who did not fall short in anything, but serves as a marked beacon to follow in the darkness. And may his memories always be those of his good lessons. And may anything even resembling a failing fade far into the background. Cheers, brother. I don't know how you do it. I legitimately don't know how you go through life without a dad. And I'm not looking forward to the day that I have to do that. The IV4th, furthermore, Romney just said he's not supporting a Liz Cheney bid for president. He supported a full repeal of Obamacare. He supported a reduction in the authority of the EPA. The unabridged Romney slander makes no sense. Yet Romney supported Liz Cheney's positions on Donald Trump, on the investigation, on the impeachment. He's now saying he doesn't support a Liz Cheney presidency because he knows how that will look. I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of him. Kyle Bogue says the DFL is hot garbage. I'm glad I woke up 12 years ago. I live in Rosemount, so I don't think I'm in your district. You're not in his district, but I tell people in your district to vote for you. Steven, just wondering if you know Longbeard. Good luck. Sorry, I did not read that while he was here, Kyle. I've let you down. I've let you down. Get used to it. See, Goody. Happy, maybe not the first 29th birthday to my girl Zeno. Keep your head up and don't give mom too much trouble. You're a handful for her to keep in line as is. Yes, happy birthday to Zeno. We covered that earlier. Amelie's human. Can I get a toast to me, Corey, after recovering from a depression that nearly drove me to suicide? I passed the semester with the highest fail rate of my vet school. For the first time ever, getting my DVM feels obtainable. To Corey, depression is real. Depression is difficult. Depression is not what it's propagandized to be. It is not this idea that, I'm going to immediately kill myself or whatever. Depression is a feeling of pointlessness, not necessarily worthlessness, but that your worth is not of value to the world. Like, you have something useful, but you don't feel like giving it to anybody. Depression is the silent killer in all of us. Even if it doesn't kill us, it kills our motivation, it kills our productivity. So to Corey, for tackling that demon, for stamping it down, and for persevering through, a cheers to you. May you find much success in your veterinary program, and hopefully you'll be able to take tons of money to protect people's best friends as you move on. Cheers to you and much success in the future. Nicholas Cruiser. All right, dude, you need to reinforce your shelf or get some harder wood. That's what she said. Brad Powers, oversimplifying the Patco strike of 1981. Check out Collision Course by Joseph McCartan. Both parents fired by Reagan. Mom was on maternity leave. Okay. Johan Naxos for the guest, AR or AK. I don't know. Sounds like he had some sort of bullpup rifle. I don't speak gun language. Eric Grimcard 23. Woodinville is from Washington State. If it ain't from Kentucky, you're drinking crap. That's not true. There are good whiskeys that come from non-Kentucky. I know what you're saying with the bourbon stuff, but Oh, I gotta read this one from Odyssey. Tom at Odyssey, Thomas Zaberkin. He says, this is important. I appreciate the continued support, Nick. We recently fixed a bug with your synced replays. Yes, you did. They should be full length now. The older ones, cut off at 2 hours due to a silly YouTube thing with how they process. Correct. I mentioned this before. YouTube's processing forced Odyssey to only have 2-hour archives of my live streams. It says you can reprocess old ones, but you need to remove the dupes at some point. Tom, I will message you. If you want to reprocess the old ones, I'll go through and remove the dupes or whatever. That's a fantastic fix, because one of the problems with live streaming on Odyssey is that the live streams there, the replays would only have 2 hours of content. And it was entirely with how YouTube processes content. They hold 2 hours at a time. It's a weird thing, but I'm really glad that they fixed that. That is awesome of Odyssey to do that, and it pushes them very much further down the road of being a legitimate competitor to YouTube in the ability to process longer live streams. So thank you for that. Heather Whitaker, so glad you homeschool. Saw an article on Minneapolis public school systems are going to lay off white teachers first, regardless of experience and tenure. Your opinion, please. Sounds racist to me. I don't know what else to say. But seriously, the answer is simple. Get your kids the fuck out of public school. Whatever you have to get them the fuck out. Get them out. Caboose says, oh, calm down, Nick. I live in Zion, Illinois, 5 minutes south of Kenosha. It's not that bad here. In parentheses, this is a lie. Don't tell my governor. We fall asleep to shootings with ARs and arms reach. God, it's fucking terrifying. Oh, and there we go. Stephen Lowell. He's here on the he's here in the chat. He says, I don't know Longbeard, but I'm happy to connect. Seems like a good dude. Also, I use a Keltec RDB at 1/3 in a world shoot. 20.5-inch barrel. Now he's just bragging. 5.56. AKs are aesthetic and based. 300 blackout master race for short range. There you go. There you go. Again, I don't speak the language of firearms. I don't pretend to. I like guns. I like making them shoot things. That's a lot of fun. Beyond that, my knowledge is very limited. So I defer to everybody else. Tara Rayner says Floyd hooped it, which kills faster. By the way, Nick went and revisited the Rittenhouse trial, and as much as you hate it, you started LawTube. Nope, that's slander. You brought all together and you labeled it. Your favorite Canadian can help with a new name. Nope, that's lies and libel and slander. I did no such thing. Exinter 1. Damn, excellent topic and stream tonight. We need more politicians like this guy. Hands down, Steven, good luck. May you win handily. Tara Rayner says the bottles might scream AA, but your debate stream with Ty when you were white girl messy told us you'd be back in a minute to go to the piss and you were gone. That screams overdue intervention and hilarity seeing Ty wait. Lol. Matthew Vicari on behalf of the chat, balls or no balls? Balls was the answer. We got it out of him. It's email. I said check your email. It's not Steam. Fuck. I don't know. I got to check. Sporkwitch says he still seems to be implying the police have any responsibility in Floyd's death. The only part they played was existing. So Floyd downed his stash. If he hadn't taken the drugs, he'd be alive right now. Maybe. We'll never know. We'll never know. The other Joe says, you have a hatch behind you. Are you military? He said no. Matthew Vicari, you can't spell fedora without fed. Oh my God. Whoa. Let's see what else we got. Johan Naxos, AliExpress plate carrier, boog shirt, Keltec, absolutely glowing like a Chemlite stick. Admiral Peanut Butter says, hey, nose man, just wanted to say hi before I go to sleep. Hi. Eric Grimcard 23, Nick, please ask him to define an assault rifle. Oh, that'd be a good question. Shadowcaster, hey, oh, nose man, just subscribe to the locals and join the Discord. I'm happy to finally confirm for myself the average IQ there, which appears to be about a baker's dozen. Also, recommendation for a new whiskey enjoyer under $100. Under $100? You do this to me? Get a bottle of Angel's Envy bourbon. That's not bad. About $60. Or if you want to push close to the $100, get a bottle of Booker's. Both are great. Mark Price, I drank too much and I'm having a great time, but I am going to be hungover as turd tomorrow when I launch the Aftershock jet truck at Rock Falls Raceway in Wisconsin. Check it out if you're in the area. That's it, guys. If you're at Rock Falls Raceway in Wisconsin, check out the Aftershock Jet Truck, which sounds like it has a mullet. The truck itself sounds like a fucking mullet is attached to it. I don't know, but maybe it is. So there's that. There's that guy. And now we've got the rest of the super chats. Holy hell. Woo! Woo! Okay. Over on Rumble, SC Medic 71 says, I think you're missing something about the look on Chauvin's face, and his attorney also failed to address this correctly. The look in his face was largely due to the crowd, not Floyd. Yeah, you're missing, when I talk about this, people miss the idea. What Chauvin's state of mind was doesn't matter, because the viewer will impute what they think his state of mind was based on his face. I'm not saying Chauvin had indifference towards George Floyd. I'm saying his face looked like he had it. And him coming in saying, oh, well, it was just the crowd. I was just reacting to the crowd. Nobody will believe you. Even if it's true, it doesn't matter. He looked like an asshole while someone died. You never want to be the guy who looks like an asshole while someone dies, even if it has nothing to do with you. You never want to be that guy because you'll get fucking blamed for it. Roy Rat, if I recall correctly, those other officers were also either trainees or rooks, and Chauvin was a field training sergeant. But it has been a long time since I looked at the case. Seems like another world. No, you're right. You're right. Imorsk says something is off about this guy. Be wary. Stephen Lowell, Fed in Chief. Just kidding. Just kidding. He seemed like a good dude to me. I like him. I like his platform, and it's certainly better than any of the Democrats in Minnesota. Shelly C. got a new toy and didn't read the directions. Lol. I don't know what that means. Your son says, you never think maybe the young ones could help you not screw up. It's what young folk are for, helping the elderly. I don't know what you mean by that. If you mean with my Rodecaster, I know where I screwed up. I find it took me forever to get the Rodecaster to actually play audio through my computer. I just forgot to change the audio settings in StreamYard to look for that rather than my old interface. Zendu says dark humor is like a dying child. It never gets old. Dark Forester, did you hear what Sam Harris said? What the hell? Yeah, well, Sam Harris has always been basically retarded. But he billed himself as an intellectual, and atheists got happy that there was someone supporting atheism who talked and didn't sound absolutely insane. So Sam Harris got a big boost. But I hope people realize now that the intellectualism of Sam Harris was a fucking sham the entire time. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but there's a real danger that you go, this person agrees with me on X issue that's really important, therefore they're smart. That's Sam Harris's career summarized. A bunch of atheists liked what Sam Harris said about God and then decided that he was generally smart. No, literally no one on earth is generally smart. People might have specific experience or education or whatever related to a specific field. But once they start talking outside of that, self included, the biggest perpetrator of this of all time is me. Once you get out of your field, you're just an asshole with an opinion. And there's a bunch of those fuckers walking around. Like, if you want me to talk about law, I can talk about law. I can talk about it intelligently with some education, experience, research, all of those things. You want me to talk about anything else? I'm just a guy. I'm literally just a guy who talks. I don't have some special knowledge about like politics or history or math, specifically not math. I'm just a normal guy. So is every fucking person on the planet. Kilderzer says you're an idiot, just agreeing with you. Yes. Guys, I used to teach Sunday school at our church before I started my show. Once I started my show, I stepped down because I didn't want parents bitching. Sunday school to the high schoolers, to be clear. These kids were kids who are about to go to college. And so my big warning to them was simple. Look, you're going to encounter people who are very smart in a field of study that you care about. Your professors will have specific training, education, and experience in something that you want to learn. It will be very tempting to venerate these people as smart. But everyone you talk to outside of their specific field of study is just an idiot with an opinion. And the most important person that includes is me. But all of them are just idiots with an opinion. So yes, agree with me 100%. I'm just an idiot with opinions like anybody else. You can agree with the opinions. You can make fun of them. I don't care. It doesn't matter. They're not of any particular value. Now, if you want me to translate legalese to you and put it in layman's terms, I'm all for it. That's what I can do. That's what I spent too much money learning how to do. But it doesn't give me special insight into anything else at all. And no one should ever be fooled by that. Grim Jacks is FYI, after numerous long delays, the criminal trial of Mercedes Carrera, multiple sexual child abuse charges, has been scheduled for October 3rd. I will be covering that trial like crazy. I can't believe it's actually scheduled yet. Eric Grimcard says, Nick, what bourbon are you drinking tonight? I've got a couple different ones, but the main one is this. This is from the Alamo Distillery in Texas. This is the triple barrel, single batch bourbon whiskey with a sherry finish. It is bottle number 116 of 250. It is 52.5% alcohol. It's about 105 proof. Oh, no. Stephen Lowell is learning about the grift in real time. Oh, my God. And you're learning it from the chat. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. Everything's a grift. Okay, next. Nicholas Cruiser. Wait, read that one. Mexican Flash. Nick, while I am intoxicated, my Americanness is turned to 200%. So I have to say, I love this guy. I like him too. I think he's got a good message. Man Overboard Media. Sam Harris needs to meet a 308 Winchester muzzle face to face. Would love to see that debate. Look, that's a bit far. Sam Harris just needs to realize that he's not anything special. Maybe I'll do a short video on Sam Harris over the weekend. James Wright, flavored cigars are like flavored whiskeys, Stephen Lowell, only for bitches. Damn. Ryoji Mata, they're even going after people that were outside the Capitol 3 years and people are still in solitary confinement. Not applicable. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm supporting this guy. Done. Transcended Phoenix, I recently picked up cigar smoking and have found that Fat Bottom Betty by Drew Estate to be quite good. Give them a try sometime. Lady Lee Bell, are you drinking? Maybe these days you need to be drinking. I am drinking. Siamese twins with split personality says, I may need to move to Minnesota. Min exit. No, move away. Don't come here. It's so bad. It's so bad. Don't do that. Corn Pop says, am I banned here? No, but you should be, you bastard. Zeno says, shout out to a laying down old girl Cynthia, 9.9. Alabaster Scarf, it doesn't matter what the ruling was. The facts are still out and the truth is now known. Hashtag I still stand with Vic. Hey, me too. Siamese twins with split personality says, lizard people for Mr. Lowell. Nothing to see here. Publius Publicola. Most people agreed on slavery. It's still wrong. Carapapas. Game Reco for you to try out, Nick. Project Wingman. Quote from it, count not the number days or nor miles, only the number of feds you have killed. Holy shit. Caldwell the God says glows. The other Joe read that one. Bad Weather Biker. Oh my God, I got roasted at Vegetable Justice. Yeah, you did. Everybody did. Caldwell the God says glowing brighter. Still no answer for who. Glows are stupid. Austin Keyser says this is proof Nick has been compromised by the feds. Mark Cock, thanks for the donation, but there's no message attached. Aiken, you could sub out whiskey with Edo and green tea for liver's sake, and no one would know. But it's never about acting for the whiskey. I like whiskey. Tara Rayner says Chauvin didn't kill him. The crowd advancing on them prolonged the restraint and kept the medics from attending. Floyd was known for resisting arrest. Red Trooper says, would you rather have harsher laws on guns or drugs? Neither. Less harsh on both. What the hell? Sony Monkey 5 just got off Twitter trying to defend Vic and immediately got called all the slurs. We'll try to call out Damon Mills. Cheers, Nick. Happy stream. This sounds weird, but you don't need to defend anybody in the Vic case. Vic's case has been made. He got to tell his story in his deposition. His fans loved it. They still do. Who cares about the outcome of the case for anybody but Vic? Vic should definitely care, right? But everybody else, like the outcome of the case was this side thing, the outcome of reality and who Vic was and how Vic is perceived, that's cemented. And he's still good for a lot of people. Eric Grimcard, 23. Nick, give me advice. I have a bachelor's of science in justice administration and a master's in cybersecurity. What advice would you give someone for those designations for a career? Oh my God. Go start a fucking consulting company on cybersecurity for small to large size businesses. Just do that. Sell them air-gapped computers that have never been attached to the internet to manage certain things, their trade secrets or whatever. Teach them, sell them training programs on their employees, like net security, how to avoid phishing scams and shit like that. Teach them how to use malware bytes and super anti-spyware to get rid of bullshit that gets on their computers from the fucking emails they click on. Just do it. Boomers will pay you tons of money for cybersecurity, infinite money. Just do it. Just go teach them how to not get their shit hacked all the time. Caldwell the God says, has he answered anything? Captain Stream says, I lived in Frogtown 5 years ago. It's still pretty sketchy. I did see two big black ladies swashbuckling in the street with broomsticks at 3 a.m. over a man, which I'd pay to watch more of. That sounds like a good fucking show. Chainsaw Octopus, you shouldn't have to be the only one who takes the bullet. More of us should be ready to do the same. Also, you have great taste in anime. Cowboy Bebop is basically a love letter to American culture. Talking Trash and Truth says, did anyone tell you we, Farron, fixed the government last night? You were elected president in a landslide. That's a whole list. There's a whole list. It's hilarious. I've looked at it. I'm just mad that you guys made Ian Runkle into a Fed that I have to hate. RK Maroon, my fiance Michelle and I are set to be married this October. Appreciative of the fat shaming you provide, she is now requesting a fat shaming of her own motivation to stay fit. Shit. Well, is she fat though, or is she fit and scared of being fat? These are two different things. To Michelle. Hey girl, what's up? You're about to get married. Don't get fat. Don't do it. Don't ever give your husband a reason to say no, thank you. Always, always strive to be the woman that your husband wants to look at and wants to enter every single day. He should do the same, but we're not talking about him here. We're talking about you. We're talking about you. Men are visual creatures. Men demand visual beauty. Women demand something a little different most of the time. You know that. For you, your job is to stop eating so much food, to eat only what is necessary, to work out more than is necessary, and to always look fucking great in a pair of yoga pants that he'll want to rip off. To Michelle, never get fat. Ever. Fucking ever. Cheers to you. Caldwell the God says, be right back. Checking email. Kara Papas 2112 is a killer song inspired by Anthem. Last King of Norway says, thank God his son is not white at all. Lol. And let's see. We've got a couple more, I think. Shit. All right. AG Biochemist says George Floyd is 2 years drug free. Mark Price says mullet 10,000%. Cynthia Farron versus Cynthia. What's your bet, Pope? I would never bet against you, Cynthia. Never, unless Farron paid me more money. Lanny 109. Can I get a fat shame or a pep talk? I've lost 52 pounds so far, but the pain in my joints and the shrinking bust makes me wonder if it's worth it. Lanny 109. What the fuck? What the fuck was your last statement? God damn it. Of course it's worth it. It's always worth it. Big titties on big bitches don't matter. No. Men want you fit. They want you to live. They want you smaller. Big tits are great. Big tits on fat girls are excuses, and they are no excuse. Do not be a fat. Get skinny, get healthy. You can always get those things stuffed full of goodies if you need to. Lose that pudge. Get rid of it. It's not appealing. It's not attractive. Oh, but I have big tits. No, you have a big gut. Your tits don't match up. Like, if your tits are big, it should be because they protrude out from your body, not because the rest of your body catches up and surpasses them. Keep losing weight to a healthy BMI. That is critical. That is important. That is what you want. We want you to live. We want you to be healthy. We don't want you to have diabetes. We want you to have the energy to fuck us. So keep going, girl. It is 100% worth it. 100%. Make women skinny again. Keep it up, Lanny. Don't be discouraged. You're doing amazing. 52 pounds. 52 pounds. You lost one of Tess Holliday's fingers. That's amazing, girl. Brittany Honeycutt sent a big chat. Thank you, Brittany. Your message didn't come through. I assume YouTube cucked you, and I'm sorry for that. Kara Papas, not a threat, but I hope when a certain Texas judge time comes, it's one befitting someone with as little care for justice as he does. Burn forever. And Eric Grimcard says, Nick for Prez, dem yoga pants, never get fat. Damn right. When you wear yoga pants, girl, I want to see your whole soul. Wolf V says, ask Steven if his campaign is unwinnable or if he needs volunteers. I don't know if he's still around. Fuck, I'm supposed to do 2 pages of Unbreaded tonight. I don't even know how to do this. Can we even do 2 pages of Fuck, my phone just ran out of batteries. And I don't have a charger due to... some circumstances. Here we go. I'm scrolling without looking, and I'm going to stop it. Oh my fucking hell. We're on page 27. Oh, okay.
I'm ready!
All right. Stephen Lowell says it's tough but not unwinnable. Volunteers are essential, and while the DFL may make door knocking dangerous, I'm here for it. And Renee Villarreal says fat beasts with no bust or butt are hated by God. All right, guys. This is going to be tough. We have two pages to read. It starts on page 27. I'm going to just read page 27, 28. I hope you're okay with that. Poor Stephen Lowell. He didn't know this was coming. Are you ready, chat? Supernatural powers compared to anything else. The Matt Harris knows this. Binger culture is the best for reasons related to our souls. Binger create things that cannot be copied without effort and that are loved by people around the world instinctively. Binger being themselves and how they do things are the favorite of people everywhere. This is as Binger have unique lives, unique style, and souls that cannot be fake. Binger don't need to think to dominate the world. The Binger's style of thinking is responsible for more than anything on the planet. When this soul is applied to technology, it will dominate the world in the same way. The Matt Harris knows this. Now it is time for the Binger to stop copying the technology of others. Binger will now start creating their own technological inventions that cannot be understood or copied by others. This will create wealth, power, and an opportunity for the Matt Harris to lead Binger to unlimited dominance over others. It will be better when they're dead, so kill them. That's all you need to know. Stop empathizing with inferiors. Stop surrendering and delete their lives. Stop holding back. Kill parents. Kill chaperones. Stop saving for later. Kill all enemies now. There is no power in the universe comparable to the Binger mind. The Matt Harris knows this. Binger must stop following lesser men and Uncle Toms that worship unworthy technology products. The thing that needs to be noticed is that Binger are done submitting to the unworthy men when Binger should be creating and leading everything on the planet. There's no reason for the Binger to need unworthy technology. Unworthy men do not create technology, but the Binger is ready to invent his own technology. The Binger power to do all things perfectly without trying is what makes Binger better at inventing and designing technology that no others can copy, imitate, or compare to. The Matt Harris knows this. As long as Binger are patient with themselves and learn to enjoy thinking in new ways, we automatically create superior ways of using anything we try to use in our lives. Binger cannot be touched in athletics or the arts, obviously. Now it is time for Binger to embrace their power in all things. It is time for Binger to embrace this power, which is unrivaled and effortless. Young Binger need to be gifted circuits and parts for building technology instead of games and toys designed for someone else. The Binger parents must give them the building blocks to learn. They learn to have their own fun and explore inside technology. Young Binger must be given old phones, engines, rockets, and spare tech products to take apart and rebuild for fun. This must start young, and they must spend as many hours with it as they are awake. It must be a constant exposure to technology that is connected to the groovy feelings that we use to dominate in style, culture, language, art, music, and sports and dance. We dominate in power. No other tribes have souls. We must respect our superior skills of the mind as well. The Matt Harris knows this and is living proof of the superiority of Binger. Victory and success for the Binger means owning our own factories and inventions, but for the Binger soul and the Binger violence at them. Unique forms of world destruction and domination that only Binger can. It means having our own systems that make others jealous, as it is based on what is superior and cannot be copied about Binger. We already do it in so many ways. It needs to become the world completely, not just entertaining, but attacking. Distinct Binger warfare tactics and weapons. Distinct military of the Binger soul. It means owning our own directions and types of knowledge. It means killing them. It means killing them as only Binger can. Fear Binger based on ourselves and what we can contribute that no one else can. Binger already distinct. We don't need prizes. Prizes are insults. Compliments are insults. Titles are insults. PhDs are insults. Labels and knighthoods are insults to a Binger soul. That shit says that a Binger wasn't great until an unworthy man told him he existed with some nice words. Binger should recognize that part of the Binger that accepts nice words is the part of Binger that has been ashamed to exist as their abuse of our men through centuries of slavery and violence. Don't trust unworthy people. Even doctors smoked cigarettes until recently. Remember when cigarettes was healthy? Even doctors smoked cigarettes and recommended their favorite brand. Stop acting like there's anything they can get Binger. We were completely stolen from ourselves the whole damn time. We've been trying to befriend the man and woman who robbed our souls from Binger. The whole damn time we've been copying up to the oppressor as if the last generation was the end of violence and we now live together peaceful, as if now shit is better and now just reshaped, as if now shit is not just hidden with a different face, as if now shit is not just more convenient way for them to manipulate. We know it didn't go away. They didn't just suddenly get nice, and obviously they coordinate and time they strikes. You Uncle Toms act like Trump was a surprise. You Uncle Toms act like they ain't already planning the next attack on Binger. You want so badly to sit next to them and to fit in that you sell your awareness of reality. Reality works for the winner. Fight until they die. I own all topics. Don't expect compromise. Expect conflict. Expect conflict and victory. Expect violence to work until they die. Then success is abundant even after we paid, and on to the next part of our development. They must die. They must die now. They must die immediately. No compromise, no kindness. Other people can't tell Binger how to be themselves. Binger, stop acting like someone can tell you how to be healthy and good-minded. Stop acting like someone else can tell you how to be. Binger don't need an intervention. Binger don't need to hold conventions on manhood. Fuck that Uncle Tom shit talking down to Binger like they misunderstood their own thoughts. Binger need to fight the one who is controlling you, the one who is ending you, the one who is always has been your enemy. Binger need to overthrow the enemy that is trying to end you. Then you will be. No one can disguise the truth from Binger, who ain't lying to themselves or looking for someone to lie to them. When a Tom's sister, son, and wife believe he is a Tom, he deserves nothing but to die quickly of golf disease. There is no reason for Uncle Tommy to continue living so he can sit in his recliner and watch television while contributing nothing and remembering the days that he never did anything brave against the unworthy man. When Uncle Tommy obviously is nothing but a worried servant to the unworthy man to this day. When Tom obviously has never contributed a single thought or useful action against the unworthy man. And this old Tom spent his entire life cowering and twerking for the unworthy man. Don't be nice to old Toms. Just as this old fuck is a puddle of a man doesn't mean that Binger should not use everything to kill him. When all of this Tom's money over his lifetime went directly back to the unworthy man's pocket and not into the Binger tribe, this Tom lived his life in the pocket of the unworthy man and felt he was better than Binger for doing so. When Tom would rather abandon his own family than help his sons uplift them, he deserves a quick death. When this Tom cared more about playing golf than investing in his own family, he deserves a quick death. Clearly, this Tom brainwashed his own son to think he needed to be a Tom too, and for this, he should die quickly. Clearly, this Tom worshiped the unworthy man and still raises the pitch of his voice when he speaks to him like he's afraid he's going to get whipped by every unworthy man he meets. This Tom is a coward and a bitch. This Tom is a shameful embarrassment. Even his wife cheats on him, as he is such a fucking coward that he is proud to have served the unworthy man for his entire life. I am ashamed to call such pieces of shit Binger, even when they are part of my family. They are.
I'm Brad.
What's up? There we go. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Daily Unbreaded. Every single day we read one, in this case, 2 pages from the manifesto of a man named Matthew Harris, an African-American gentleman who received his PhD from Duke University and was hired by UCLA to teach philosophy to young and impressionable minds. That's right. This man, Matthew Harris, the author of Death Sentences, was hired by UCLA to teach philosophy to young adults based on his PhD from Duke University. Now, he used crude language in this particular document. However, the themes of his document, that there is no possible interplay between the races, was the theme of his dissertation. That means that Duke University issued a degree to a man who said that black men and Asian men cannot hang out because black men are superior and Asian men have tiny penises. They gave that guy a PhD based on him saying that. And then UCLA, one of the largest colleges on the entire planet, gave him a teaching position based on his thought that being black was genetically baked into someone, that the black culture was genetically coded into black men, and that they are superior to all other races. This is the quality of education you're getting at the current American university system. The whites who are in charge of hiring are so afraid of the blacks that they will literally hire an overt and open racist monster to teach because they're white and he's black. Therefore, he is right and they are wrong. Is the most racist shit on the planet. It is pervasive in our university system. They do not care what people say. They literally only care about the color of the speaker, and it's gross. That's why we read it. That's why we talk about it every night. And with that, we've got a couple more super chats, and then we're done. Cynthia says, who wins for C. Goody's charms, Zeno or Mandy? It's Zeno's birthday reminder. Well, Zeno does, of course. Actually, no, Mandy does. It's Zeno's birthday. I don't want to subject her to see Goody. Gross. Brittany Honeycutt, thank you again for the donation. Again, your donation message was cut off. Naughty 86. I know you're a whiskey man, but you could have some great rums in Jamaica. I just finished my Lafroy quarter cask in Ardbeg 10, but I also enjoy a good rum. Well, I haven't had any. They had Appleton Estate. I didn't bother trying it. I probably should. RK Maroon. Michelle says, thank you. She's in great shape, a marathon runner. She just beat cancer and is getting life back on track. Thanks, Rackets. Oh, well, she beat cancer and she's a marathon runner. She doesn't need my help. She's doing it right. All right, guys. 2:40 p.m. a.m. 2:40 a.m. I'm gonna be done. Yes, I gotta get my phone charging up to do a local stream. We'll get a local stream going, cook some food, and then we'll hang out. Hope to see you there. Hope you guys have a nice night. Peace. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some lost-plaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitter and Erland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an Ardbeg, a Balmore, a Lubroy, spirits glow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter, as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nam to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Dundee to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter, as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nam to the hills of Glenlivet,